I'd like your logic.
I'll go ahead and read it. I'll read it all today and then I'll.
I don't mind splitting it
The
up.
mayor
I
could
just-
kick off and do the first three, so I didn't have it first document. How long is it?
I'll just turn mine off because I don't like to listen to it anyway.
You look like a doctor, something be like gone like that.
Charge them.
Let's just do one more. We're gonna start off right here. We're gonna do 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll do 6, 7 until it runs out, okay?
I do it twice, that's no fair.
You actually gotta do it 3 times and I gotta do it 3 times.
All right, fine.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order Wednesday, July 21st, time is 7 p.m., council work session. Please allow me, can we cite the pledge of allegiance? I'm used to doing one Zoom. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, we're gonna start off with our council mantra, and this is something new we're gonna try as far as each councilor reading one as we, and I'm gonna go ahead and start it off. Our council mantra is, number 1, I am on the city council as an advocate of quality and effective services, city services. I will do what I can to promote cost-sensitive and professional services to city residents and visitors. I will do what I can to promote safe environment for businesses and family.
Number 2, it is my responsibility to contribute to a stabilized environment for the city. I am an opponent of uproar, dissension, and conflict. I believe in cooperation. I believe in...
It's my turn. I believe in routine. The greatest gift I can give to the city residents is to provide services that are predictable.
Every comment I make and every vote I cast will be motivated by the question, what is good for the city residents and visitors?
What I want for my family is what I want for all patrons of the city.
6, I will champion the city. I will compliment and reinforce often. I will suggest and recommend when necessary.
I will support a majority position of the council. I may not agree, but once the vote is taken, I'm with the others.
I will never come to council meeting having made a promise to an individual or group.
At all times, I will remember that I am a city official whose purpose is to serve and represent others and to act on their behalf.
Courtesy is a rule. I will not break that rule.
The council meeting is a business meeting. It is not entertainment. It is not social hour. It is question and answer session. It is a business meeting.
I am busy. Other council members and the mayor are busy. The city staff and administrator are busy. Everyone is busy. At this meeting, I will do what I have to do. I will do it as fast as possible. I will respect the time of other people.
Okay, now we'll open it up for visitor comments. If you could keep your comments to 5 minutes. And if you'd like to come up to the table here and state your name for the record. Yep, you can. Yep.
I'm Jill Gilbreth, and I've never done this, so it's all new. I'm here to bring up the topic of my grandfather, Frank Cursilius plaque, that had been a memorial down at the docks since 1984, when he passed as mayor of St. Helens. I've been researching the archives and trying to find as much information about that time period and the memorial itself and my own memories of when that came about and his death, and that there was reasons behind why that plaque was placed at the docks. My grandmother was given options of naming the Japanese Gardens at McCormick Park after him, naming 6th Street Ballpark, Frank Corsilia Park. We grew up at that ballpark and we knew it would always be 6th Street Ballpark, and so it wasn't gonna be that. And he had a dream for the waterfront that he worked on and talked about a lot with family, and so my grandma knew immediately that that's where it needed to be. And so, from my understanding, the plaque, I have pictures of what it was on. It was on the structure next to the top of where the dock landing is. And had the wood into the cement had rotted away at the base and was a constant problem for maintenance the way that it had been erected. And when it broke and there was construction going on to build a new park and everything, it was removed. And I don't know when that was, that it was removed exactly. But about 1.5 years ago, I started trying to track it down again and see if we could get it put back up. It was found, and I was given the explanation of why it was removed, that the structure had broken, and that they were going to put it down on the docks. Would I like a call when it was going to be placed? And I said, no, as long as it's being put down there, that's great, thank you. And then it was never placed. And I was told it's being bounced between the parks and the city hall offices, that you're gonna have to go to the city council meeting and bring this up. And so I'm here, my family still lives in the area, we've lived here for decades.
I've heard of it.
Likewise, how long ago was that? How long ago had it disappeared?
See, I don't know exactly when it was taken down.
Kind of.
It was up for decades.
It was taken down in about 2010, and when we took it down, it was taken down by Shedco because it was in terrible shape, and it was replaced as far as the town. We had a brochure with all the listings as it was on that plaque, or the plywood thing. And I believe at that
It had like business directories around the plaque. The plaque was in the middle of the big square at the top of the docks.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that's where and at one time, the county had it, and at one time, the city has the piece of wood. It's quite rotted,
Right.
but the thought of it went into the directory that Shedco had with all the same names on it. And of course, the telephone numbers that were updated. And since then, the brochure, the map of the city has changed a bit, but that's where it went at that time. It was taken down by Shedco. At that time, it was leaning against the fence because
Yeah.
the 4x4s had totally rotted off.
Right.
That's where it went, so it's in storage,
Right now it's at the city parks in the
Okay.
office.
and then it came back.
Yeah. It went there from here 2 weeks ago. So
Have you seen it?
I had them send a picture of it to me, just the plaque, so that I could see it again. It had been several years since I'd seen it.
It needs to be refurbished because the plywood is becoming unglued as well as unpainted.
Well, it's not affixed to the wood.
Agreed, but as I said, the plywood itself, the port is
It would have to be put on something
Yes.
new.
What's your request?
My request is that the memorial be placed on something new. Even if I have to help find some artists to make something, I'm willing to do that. But this is a generational thing. My family's been here forever. I need to honor him. He's also a veteran. And I want
Yeah.
that
The
place.
location, there is a brass plaque on the lighthouse.
That was my great aunt.
Okay, that would be an ideal place to put the plaque underneath that or on the other side of that. There's plenty of room on that
Okay,
lighthouse.
I agree. I just would like it to be where my grandmother wanted it. for him.
Yeah. Yep, we'll definitely look into it and get it placed somewhere
Thank
down. Yes.
All right, thank you. I'd make sure that somebody else. Thank you very much.
Now, your aunt's got the one plaque, so the other side could be,
Yeah, as long as it's easily visible to my children and people in the future, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Any other visitor comments?
So I was here to talk about your work session. I guess my first complaint would be why you moved the link for the work sessions from the agenda where they had always been and sort of hid them on the meetings page rather than it being right on the calendar where you can click on the agenda. It took me a long time to find it. And it's like, why would you do that when everybody is used to seeing it right on the agenda to watch the meeting? It's almost like you don't want people to be paying attention to what you're doing. So that kind of bothered me. And then, of course, the second thing that I came in, and I only got to see part of your work session this afternoon, but was very unhappy based upon that and the article that was in the Chronicle about how the plans for the over $3 million of ARPA funds that you are planning on spending. And I guess the first thing that really, really bothers me is the $755,000 that is going for an unknown amount for staffing and building renovations at the rec center. And I am particularly miffed at that because this council directly lied and said that no money was needed to refurbish that building. That was exactly what you said. And I guess you got Doug to say it because maybe he had the most credibility, which he doesn't have anymore. But he sat there and said nothing was needed on the building. So my question for you now is, out of the $755,000 that you're going to spend for staffing and other things, how much is actually going to go to renovate the building? Or do I have to do a public records request to find out exactly how much you lied when you said that you weren't going to spend any money on that building?
So what I know is that the building is sound that we bought there, that the heating and the AC was probably gonna be part of the cost. I cannot speak on what would the future of that building would look like at this point in time, Brady. But it is an investment into our children and our community that meets the criteria of the money that is available to the city of St. Helens.
Yeah, it's still money, and it's still money that you said that you didn't need to get spent. You were very specific. I was very clear. I said, the $800,000 that you paid for the building, I said, is gonna be a drop in the bucket. You're gonna spend at least $1 million by the time you renovate and do it. And you specifically said, no money needs to be spent. It is in perfect shape. Nothing needs to be done. That's what you said.
It has classrooms, it has a kitchen, it has 2 bathrooms in both units available. Not a lot of monies are gonna be spent, but if we decide.
It wasn't a lot, it was
So-
no money is going to need to be spent. That's what you said. And the question is that you're sort of beating around the bush.
I'm not beating around no bush.
Exactly how much money
I'm
of
not
the
beating around the
$755 is going to be spent on renovating the building? That's the question. And I can do a public records request, but I just figured since you lied earlier, that maybe you now wanna come clean and say exactly how much of the $755 is gonna be used to renovate the building. That was perfect and needed no
So
renovation.
at that point in time, we did not have allocated monies that were coming to the city in the tune of a little over $3 million that meets criteria for investments into our children, and it meets the criteria of that.
I'm not arguing.
So as the city grows, we are going to spend money, Brady.
I am not arguing that. It wasn't that, the building needs some work, but we're gonna budget it. It wasn't that. It was specifically, the building needs no work. It needs no renovation. And I, at the time, believed it was a lie and said, I don't really believe that. I'll bet you're gonna spend at least a couple $100,000. Oh no, it's perfect. It needs nothing. That's what you said. It wasn't, if somebody drops money on us, we'll suddenly just spend money on it. That wasn't what was said.
So I've given you the answer, and I'm not gonna say here.
No, you're not really giving me the answer
I
because
did
you
give
still
you the
haven't
answer.
said exactly how much money is being spent on the renovation. That was the
We have
question.
allocated money that was gifted to us through the federal government that it meets the allocations of that
I
program.
got that, that's not the question. The question is, how much of the seven?
So of the general budget that we budgeted, still zero is going of our budget. This is different, this is a.
I understand. it's
Yeah,
still-
that's what I understood, that's what I understood as well, how much money could come out of our, will this come out of our general fund? Is there anything that's going to be spent on our general fund for this? And if I made that comment, it was under that understanding that from the staff, that I felt that there was no general fund monies for that building. And that's why I voted for it, and that's what I understood. So I could have made that comment, I can't recall it.
You did.
And if I did, if I did, it was my understanding about the general fund.
You
And
didn't
how much
say
that
general
would,
fund.
how much it would cost.
The funding source of the money is not relevant to me.
Okay.
It's still taxpayer dollars. Whether it comes from
It
us or the general
It
fund, it's still
absolutely-
taxpayer dollars. The question was, how much renovation does the building need?
So
And it was
we-
said that none is needed.
Mr. Mayor, we have a particular word, renovation. He's talking about, we're not renovating, we're making additions and improvements. So we're not spending money on renovations. He's perfectly correct, we're not spending money on renovations. We're doing other things. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to paint that or even fix broken windows. That's just what goes on with buildings. So we followed what we said we're gonna do. He's trying to add situations to it, which is his right to do, and he's putting it under renovations.
Well, that's the word that was used in the article in the Chronicle, that you're spending on the renovations of the building.
Well, the Chronicle isn't probably the greatest
Well, so
thing
that's
of.
what I'm asking you. What are you doing and how much are you spending? That's the question, which you have not answered.
So, in the work, in the council packet for the work session, and I was just checking the city website under agendas, and meetings and agendas, and also under the calendar, and I did find the packet for this meeting and the prior meeting, so, and under the item description, park and rec building renovation, 75,000 in 2021-22, as 75,000 of that 755,000 is what was in.
That was the answer that I was looking for, which is still not zero, but it's less than I anticipated. The second issue that I had after the building was, and I'm glad that you found that, thank you. And the second question that I had was about, again, the confusion over the tourism, which apparently people had a concern that it's in deficit. And I just wanted to sort of give you a historical lesson that maybe some of you are unfamiliar with. You are probably all familiar with Black Friday. The reason it's called Black Friday is because most businesses run at a deficit until that Friday. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving. That's why it's called Black Friday. And so to go on and look at that the tourism deficits are like some big, huge problem when every single business in America runs on exactly the same thing. They don't make a profit until the Black Friday. That's why it's called Black Friday. And for you to act like, oh, tourism, which runs mainly an event that most of their money comes from is Halloween Town, isn't until October, and that would have a deficit now, doesn't even make any sense that you would be concerned because every business in America operates in that fashion. There's not a business that doesn't operate in that fashion. Again, that's why it's called Black Friday. So the concerns that you had about that seems really crazy to me and unjustified, that you just simply don't understand the process of how most businesses work, and in particular, tourism for an activity that's in October. Also,
Well, let's point out one thing. We had quite a prologue of how the accounting and the audit was done. And under the rules of the audit, however the business comes out was not part of the audit had particular rules, they followed the rules, and that's where the deficit came from. The profit and so on of the business, that was not part of the offer. So don't mix profit and process of audit.
Well, I think
Two
it
different
was,
things going, so keep
I
that
think it
in
was
mind.
you were the one that seemed most concerned about the deficit.
That's true.
Yes. So,
But
so
I was
if
trying
you're
to
saying that
be-
I'm concerned about the deficit, but I'm not worried about profit, then you just direct your own
I'm
argument.
talking about what was on paper. Let's keep things clear.
I am clear. I think it's you're the one that wasn't clear.
That's okay, we'll let you.
I am clear. I'm saying, you're the one that's saying, oh, look, there's a deficit, but no, I'm not worried about the profitability. Tourism has never not been profitable. That's the whole point.
You cannot prove that.
Point of order here, let's let Brady,
Okay,
finish,
good.
please.
Tourism has always made money, and as I said, it's not unusual for most businesses to run at a deficit until Black Friday, particularly an event that takes place in October in St. Helens. So it seems really unusual, and it also concerned me that other councilors' members seem to not understand about how the store works. It's a store, you sell things, and the deposit goes right into the city account. It's like, how hard is that to find out? It's like you don't understand that you have a tourism director who is available to answer questions and actually used to have a report here as part of the council's, and you guys decided you didn't want to hear from that, but then yet, suddenly, because it's no longer ever on your agenda, it used to be on your agenda every week, but yet then when you don't seem to have information, it's like, oh my God, there must be something wrong. The money that's coming from the dark market must be being deposited in a Swiss bank account. No, not happening, goes directly to the city. It took me 10 seconds to find that information out. It would take you less than that time. And you should do that instead of making accusations that make it seem like something is untoward when you know exactly and could find out exactly how it's done. And this, likewise, questions you made about inventory. It's like, hello, if you want to know about inventory and how the work, ask. Ask. It's not like rocket science. It's really not. You know who your person that runs it is. Ask. And just the fact that you're sitting there and making these sort of fiend accusations is disturbing to me, especially in light of your mantra of about respect. It's like you've never shown that respect. And it's clear that there are certain councilors that don't show that respect to tourism. It's not the first time that you've tried a witch hunt on the tourism director. It probably won't be the last time that you've tried it, and it bothers me a great deal when I see it from the city council, and it should not be happening here. The only thing that this town has going for it that is really working well is in fact our tourism. That's it. I hope that other things come along. I hope that happens, but right now, that is the best thing that we have going for this town. And to have the city council sort of acting like, oh, gee, what's going on, and why is it a deficit, and where does the money go, and who does an inventory, makes you both look stupid, and makes it also then look like there's something untoward that people should be concerned about when it would take you exactly 2 minutes to find out those questions. And you don't have to then look like you don't know what's going on. And you had concerns about Public Works helping out, and it's like, Public Works, that's what they do. That's how it's budgeted. That's what they've always done, even before we had Halloween Town. Public Works, they put up Christmas decorations, they've done it. Granted, we now have more because we have more events. That's what the tourism's job is, and so granted, there's more of that stuff that happens, but it's always been that way for decades. That's how it's been happening. And it's like you're confused about how that happens. It's like, really? You're concerned about that? I'm way more concerned. There are more things that I'm concerned about than Public Works working with a tourism director to help put on an event that brings 10,000 visitors to our city in a month. There are way more things that I think that we need to be concerned about than that. And again, have you ever given a list of questions or asked for information from the tourism director that they didn't respond or get back to you immediately? I think that the question is no. I think that you don't even bother to ask. And rather than take the time to ask and go over that, you sort of want to have a witch hunt in public. And I think it's very distasteful.
Thank you, Brady.
Sure.
I will agree that our tourism is really thriving, also right up there with our rec program. Any other visitor comments?
Tammy Magra. I just want to elaborate a little bit before I
say what I have to say. I think your tourism director has done a remarkable job. You can see that by the 4th of July, people out. You know, I see even like Halloween Town, some of the nonprofits that do wonderful things for the community, like the Kiwanis, get a work and they get a little bit. And I think that, you know, years ago you were pushing the tourism director, and it was the greatest thing since bread and butter. And now all at once, she's got things going well, and she always has, in my opinion, done a really good job. And now, like Brady said, you're wanting to cut her off at the knees, and I find that distasteful too. So I think you need to revisit that. I have a question. I was a little bit confused on Mr. Berkeley, his comment to Brady. You said $75,000 was going to go for, well, repair, renovation. I'm not going to argue the word to that rec center, correct? I'm clear on that. All right, what I'd like to know is through, I want to know how much money you're going to spend on the 2 new staff members that's been asked for, if you could tell me that, if you have any idea.
I'm gonna actually refer over to my finance director, Matt Burke. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So there's 4 main expenses in that main category that the council saw at the work session. It was part of the packet. $75,000 was earmarked for renovations. We know that we knew going into it that the heating and cooling system does work. However, it is 17 years old, and so we wanted to earmark money to replace that when it fails in the near future. So that is part of that $75,000. The quote that we received from Columbia Northwestern Heating and Cooling was roughly about $15,000 to $17,000 for the 2 units on that building. So that is that portion of the cost. We also wanted to earmark funds in case we needed to do renovations in the near future, because we do not necessarily know 100% what activities and things that are going to happen in that building over the next 3, 5 or so years. So we earmarked $75,000 for any renovations, painting, constructions, walls, anything that may need to be done in the future. It does not mean that next week we're going to write a $75,000 check to do renovations, but we are earmarking funds to make sure that they are available in the future. The 2 staff people that would be hired for Parks and Recreation, one is an administrative assistant. That job description is on the agenda tonight for approval. That person is to assist Shauna Duggan, our new Parks and Recreation manager. She is very overwhelmed right now with all the paperwork. She now is processing special use permits, which takes a huge amount of time, as well as a very convoluted process here for the city. And it involves a lot of departments, a lot of signatures, a lot of phone calls. So also on top of that, we have park reservations that are starting to ramp up for softball leagues, baseball leagues, little leagues, everything else that use all of our parks. So that could be a lot of time-consuming paperwork. So an administrative assistant is one of the permissible expenses for youth programs with the ARPA funds. So we have dedicated $255,000, I believe, over 3 years. I believe that's $85,000 a year for an admin assistant for that position. The other position that is in there is a recreation specialist. That is again $85,000, and that person will be completely in charge of putting on youth programs throughout the entire year for the recreation program. The remaining funds of $200,000 is $100,000 for 2 years to the library to encourage them to grow the makerspace that they have been developing over the last few years, and to give them the necessary resource to, again, help the youth in our community, bring them into the library, give them the tools and resources that the library needs so that they can be more effective and more efficient with what they're doing in the makerspace and the events that happen in the library.
We should have referred to you right from the get-go.
Matt, on this heating and cooling system, have we gotten a figure, like if we rip out what we have now, which is working and put in a more efficient system, how much money will we save on heating? Have we gotten a
We
figure?
did not get a quote to see what it would use. So it put smaller units in some of the
Yeah, I just
places that are more
wondered,
efficient. That
because,
is something we could look at when that time comes.
because as I say, right now, a 10-year-old unit is probably 70% efficient at best. A new unit may be in the high 80s, early 90s, and that's more than $2 a day saving. So it may behoove us just to look at a money-saving thing, changing the equipment out.
Okay, so, in the future, when you have, somebody up here and you wanna ask staff a question, just write it down and ask them in your report, okay?
Okay.
For everybody, it's not just for everybody, cause it's gonna be time on the floor.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, no, but it's just, we shouldn't have the back and forth like we do. We should-
Okay, well, I'm okay with it. So that brings me to my other statement that I want to make or ask you a question. Through a public records request, and I went through it on Shauna Dugan. I have no problem with Shauna, she's a nice person, it's nothing personal. But the city put out their requirements for a Park and Recs director. There was approximately 29 applicants. Every applicant had more experience, everything than Shauna had. I believe about 24 or 25 approximately, don't quote me, but within that number, had both bachelor's and experience. Shauna had no bachelor's degree. She had really, basically, in my opinion, no experience to run a big Park and Rec department. So what I don't understand is the city put out the requirements that are required a BA and all this experience. You overlooked 29 applicants, because I read it, and it was pretty, I don't know if you read every one of those resumes or not, or applications or not, resumes or not, but I did. So why would you put that out, that that's a requirement, and then hire somebody that doesn't have any of the requirements? And now you're hiring 2 people, an assistant, because she's overwhelmed. Maybe if you'd have hired somebody that had the experience and the degree that went with it, that actually had run Park and Recs departments in other cities and states, you wouldn't have to be hiring 2 extra people. And and again, I don't care if it's the money from the federal government or if it's money from local tax dollars, it's still taxpayers' money. But I would like you to clarify why you would hire someone with no qualifications at all, that went against your own requirements. That's what I'd like to know, if any of you want to answer me. If you don't, I guess you don't.
Give us some time to look it up, okay, so that we can answer you truthfully and thoroughly. Okay, so right now it'd be off our cuff for me, okay, so if give us some time, and we'll try very hard to get back to you. You're asking the council a question?
Yes, I am.
Hopefully, we will work with it and answer you.
Well, did the council, let me ask this, did the council, or is the one that approves the hiring of the departments?
In the end,
Yes.
in
So,
the end, yes,
yes, so
we took staff recommendation.
did you guys read the resume of all the applicants, or do you just go by the staff? That's just what I'm
I
asking.
did not read it.
Okay.
Okay, I did not read
No, there was
every
a lot of
resume.
qualified people. Yes, there was a lot of qualified people.
Yes.
I did not read every one of those, and I relied on the staff recommendation. And there was a committee group that went through that, sifted through that, and made recommendations.
And that, the committee group was staff?
Yes.
Was staff?
I think
Okay.
there was, there'd been a council, I can't.
It was a staff recommendation from the.
It was a staff recommendation, I know that.
It was a staff recommendation. There were, I believe we interviewed 5 or 6 different applicants at the time. Just for a point of order, the minimum requirements are a bachelor's degree and or 5 years of experience in recreation or activity planning. So it is not a requirement to have a bachelor's degree. It is a and or 5 years of experience.
Well, that's just a mince on words. If that's the case, you shouldn't even put it down there, because it really don't mean to tinker's diddly. Whether you have a bachelor's degree or not, and or.
Well, there might be someone who has a bachelor's degree in recreation who just graduated from college and it's their first year.
I understand that, but the point is, if you're gonna put out a resume and list a bunch of qualifications that you want your applicant to have,
Yeah.
Then hire from the gene pool that has the most genes. Don't hire from the pool that don't have them. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tinker Diddley, is that what,
Well, I
that?
was gonna say something else. Tinker Diddley.
Is there comments?
I do think Shauna has been doing an excellent job. She has thrown herself into, in the performance of her job, and,
We all seen that,
Yes.
yes, I will say I have.
Hi,
question, I don't,
Will you state your name for the record, even though we know you?
I'm Molly Matchek, owner of Molly's Market. I'm the business owner, opened 22 months. I opened October 5th. It was the day of the parade. Technically, I heard the number 5,000 to 8,000 people came down for that parade. My store opened at noon. I had to shut down at 7:20 because I ran out of everything, literally. Had the best day ever for about a year. This past July, 4th of July, I broke another record because of tourism. I just don't really understand its numbers. Like my brother mentioned 2 months ago, if it works, make it work. We have businesses here. We want to thrive. St. Helens is lovely. Portland is going crazy over St. Helens. They call it St. Hamptons. It's lovely. Tourism is the best. Don't ruin something that works. I love my business. I own the building with my brother. My brother owns a lot of real estate here. He's invested. I'm invested. I'm young. I see young women who want to have careers. I have a wonderful manager. She came from Taco Bell. She loves Molly's Market. She sees a whole dynamic of women who work, not at Taco Bell. They could have a career in retail, own a business. I just super concerned about who is it, if Tina's not doing this, who do you have signed up for Halloween Town next year? Let's say you fire Tina, who do you have lined up? Who's up for this job for tourism? Do you have someone lined up? That's my question. Do you have someone lined up?
We don't have a requirement to have anybody lined up right now, so the answer is no.
So why is it that you guys keep pounding tourism? Tourism works here. I see it. I've been here 22 months. I'm from Portland. People come, I'm 7 days a week, 8 to 8. People from Portland talk about Halloween Town. This is what we are. We are Halloween Town, and it works, and we make a lot of money. There's businesses that, I'm not gonna say their names, but they're able to, for the winter, they're able to close for 2 months because they made so much money in October that they were able to take a break 2 months in the winter. And that's pretty fabulous. I mean, just think about it. Wouldn't you like a 2-month vacation in the winter when it's dark from 4 to 8? That's a long, 4 to 8 is a long, dark time in a business downtown First Street. Nobody comes down there. It's a struggle, but if you're open 7 days a week, 8 to 8, it'll happen. And if you have tourism. That is my statement. And I wish you would appreciate small businesses because it's going to happen here. I see it every day because I'm in my shop every day, 8 to 8, and I see it's turning. So whether it's the riverfront, which is lovely, I talk about it all the time, but it's going to happen here. And I'm super excited. So thank you.
St. Hamptons, I like that.
Jennifer Pugsley, I'm the owner of 50 Plaza Square across the plaza there. As I usually do, I'm gonna read this, it's just easier for me. So I have to start by asking how many times do we have to come before you in support of E2C Productions? Again, here we are as local merchants and personally a city sponsor. We just did this in April. I submitted a video testimony from vacation. That's how strongly I felt about it then and how strongly I feel about it now. And I will continue to sit before you, present before you every time this comes up. Expect me to be here. I know that the city councilors, being a city councilor is not your day job, but if it were, consider this. You've done an amazing job. In fact, you've significantly improved your company's revenue. not to mention brought national, maybe international attention to the company. Your boss comes to you and says, "Great work, you've exceeded our expectations, the company has never done better. We acknowledge that our customers' revenue has improved significantly too. Nothing personal, but we want to see if we can find someone new, even if they know nothing about our company. Oh, and the relationships you have with your vendors, that means nothing to us. Is there any other aspect of the city that is scrutinized this much and this often? Couldn't this really be just a personality conflict?" So I present before you tonight in support of Tina and her company. One of the reasons I got involved in this city is I love the direction the city's going with Halloween Town and tourism. In my opinion, E2C Productions and Halloween Town are synonymous. A city councilor's job is not to dismantle what's working, it's to fix what's broken, and this is not broken. Please, this doesn't need to be fixed. So, anyway, that's it.
Is there comments?
So,
Can you state your name for the record?
Russ Lowe, 131 North River Street. Speaking of tourism, I think we can all agree that it should be safe, right? Sand Island specifically recently has been the site of fist fights and people being injured, and they've been unable to get a police response over there. And I'm interested in finding out what it would take to change that. There's also, for lack of a better way to put it, a squatter boat tied up in North Dock, the Sand Island, that was recently kicked out of city docks and had several police responses to it prior to that. There's been unsavory characters being ferried back and forth to that boat. We were able to get the sheriff to go over there and warn him that time's up, he had to go. He's still sitting there right now. I want to know what it's going to take to be able to get the city to enforce not only public safety on Sand Island and some of these boats that come in with people who may be involved in criminal activity. There's been a lot of gas siphoning going on down by the marina over the last couple of weeks. You may have heard about that. And that wasn't happening before those guys showed up. So I'd like to understand why we can't get a police response over the islands.
Okay, so we actually had this was one of our discussions earlier, and it's about the transportation. For an example, a police officer would not make an arrest out here on the public street and transport them in a private vehicle.
I don't understand.
So the only way a police officer can respond to the island right now is through the ferry service, and it has to have, they not only does the officer have to have 40 hours of training in the Marine, they have to have that. They also have to have a police boat, which we don't have. The city does not have a police boat. The county has a police boat.
Good.
Yes, the state has a police boat. Both moored down here.
So
Unfortunately, we have one county officer, and the state police, believe it or not, are directed to work Zoe's Island right now 24/7, the Marine Division. They are literally ordered by their commander, whoever. They cannot leave Zoe's Island. If it was a life-threatening situation, they could, but they are stuck on the edge.
So I understand that, but I also understand that there's a problem on Sand Island that, and Becky and Andrew are doing a hell of a job over there.
Yeah.
But when things get out of hand like that, they need help. And we want to protect tourism here. I love it, right? I live right across the street from the marina. My living room window overlooks the marina and the island. And I want to make sure that's protected. You know, if something serious happens on the island, what's that going to do to the reputation for tourism in town here?
I think if you were to look at the recording of the council work session, we did have a presentation by
Lieutenant Hogue.
Chief Greenway, Lieutenant Hogue, and Corporal King, that they went at length about those issues. They could probably describe it as better than we could. I'd encourage you to look at that, and that we are trying to address it as we can, but I think that if you were to hear their presentation at the meeting, it would provide you with much more information than we could could speak.
I understand the reasoning behind it. I'm interested in seeing what the city can do to create that.
Actually, we
solution.
spent nearly an hour on their testimony, and this is what's happening from that work session.
Today?
Yes, the police are going back and trying to work on that transportation issue that you are talking about. Okay, about getting a boat over there and a boat back. Are they gonna purchase a boat? Can they do it on a grant or whatever? But in the meantime, we want to control this dock down here with a kiosk. And a kiosk with, just like a parking meter. And, that's gonna free up the police, and it's all gonna be kind of a technological driven kind of aspect out of that kiosk.
How will that be
It's a
enforced?
great program. How is what?
How will that be enforced?
One of the problems that we ran into was some of the rules that we have don't allow them to enforce it. So we've got some rule changes too. Now, they'll get into the equipment, so there's two facets. There's rule changes, law. Okay, you go to the equipment now. The kiosks and the boats,
Well, yeah, the kiosk, how is that going to be enforced? Then those are ticketed, and they'll be ticketed just like a parking meter. They'll be read. The boat has to put in their boat number, insurance, that kind of thing, when they dock on these docks down here. So everything is registered, okay? And then, in the meantime, the police have already looked at the ordinances that they can tow a boat that's been there, but it's gonna take 10 days to do it after they ticket it. So they have to ticket it, if no one answers, the clock starts, and after 10 days, that boat can be towed. The question is, were they gonna tow it? Well, the answer could probably be that we have ascertained property down by the old paper mill and that area down there, so, and then also the port is interested in this as well, and they have property on the water as well. So those issues haven't been resolved, but they're being worked on.
I would love to see some security cameras down there at the marina, personally. I think that's one huge thing that needs to happen. I've had stuff missing out of my boat. Luckily, I know enough people down there. I had another person walking with my fishing rods and said it's my grandpa's boat. He said, that is not your grandpa's boat, put the fishing poles back.
Rick, you know the boat I'm talking about, the North Dock, right?
Yes, I do.
Been there probably 12 days now.
Yep, yes, and they got a little tiny boat that they've been going back and forth with.
They're very neat.
And there has been, Lady Cheryl Morrissey told me that her gas was siphoned to E
She's not the only one.
down there, so very.
I've lost 2 vinyl covers.
So it's very difficult situation. I think cameras are gonna be, we could not respond to that phone call, the domestic, without them coming to this side because of the fact that, one, the officers at the time were not trained to be in a bunch of heavy equipment. You'll see this in the presentation earlier. And just being able to swim with that equipment on, you have to have that part of the training. And again, if there was somebody going to jail, you can't transport them back on a public boat. You just can't. Probably like me throwing a prisoner into my truck, taking him down to Columbia County Jail and saying, hey, the St. Helens Police Department said I could bring him.
Incidentally, and I nearly forgot about it, I heard a gunshot at the north end of Sand Island on Sunday at about probably 1 o'clock. You know my boat down there, so I'm working on it, and it very clearly came from the island. I don't know where exactly it came from, but it was on the north end of the island. My phone's back there, but I made 13 attempts to call the St. Helens Police, and not one of the calls was connected. I thought something was wrong with my phone, so I grabbed my wife's, and then I tried another one, and the calls would not go through. I just wanted to get it on record. I knew that there was going to be no response. I just wanted to get it on record.
The 3333
Yes.
number.
Yes.
That's odd, because Lucia kicks over to regular dispatch.
It did last night,
Yeah,
because we had some people trying to camp in the parking lot.
okay. Check into that. I will check into that. I'll talk to Chief personally.
That's all I got. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, other visitor comments?
Well, I don't know if you can do anything about it, but it seems like your website is not working, because I have people messaging me trying to watch it, and they can't even get to like the calendar on the page. So I don't know if there's anyone here that can actually do anything about it. But they're saying like even the calendar doesn't show up.
So our meeting didn't show up?
Nothing.
The
website's down.
It's being recording, the website is down, it's nothing, it's on our provider.
Please say your name for the record.
My name's Tommy Sullivan. I mean, I've been sitting here listening to this stuff, and it's kind of crazy. I don't understand why we're going after the tourism and why we're overlooking some other things. I mean, we're saying that tourism is in a deficit of how much money, right? I mean, and you're talking about our Parks and Rec needs $200 and some thousand to move along and do what they need to do. And I'm just curious as to how our tourism, our Parks and Rec department was working beforehand with what they had. And now all of a sudden, we've hired somebody else, and now we need to hire 2 more people to do the job that we were already doing, but yet we're going after the tourism that is supposedly in a deficit. I guess I don't understand. I just want some clarification.
The Parks and Rec position, when it was just a rec supervisor, it has a lot more responsibility, a lot more oversight as far as day-to-day operations of parks too.
I know, but somebody was doing that job, right?
No.
Nobody was doing special work permits. Nobody was doing any of those things that this gentleman.
Immense amount of activities were involved with the recreation aspect when the recreation came aboard. An immense amount.
So how much, I'd like to know how much has the rec department contributed to funds? How much money have they made in comparison to tourism? I'm just curious. Our rec program is top notch, right? We're spending all this money, we're buying another building
No, I will say
to
this.
fund our rec center. They must be making money,
I
right?
will say this.
I'm
No,
curious.
no.
Are they?
I will say this. I would say those are both investments that cities should make.
I agree. We should invest in our children. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just curious. Is our rec program making money? Are they not? I mean, why would we fund something that's not making money? That's my position on it.
So, again, with COVID.
Okay, tourism with COVID, okay.
No, I'm not arguing with you.
No,
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to say that you're asking me why tourism and maybe the rec program aren't making money. I'm gonna tell you it's mainly due to COVID.
I know, but why isn't the rec program being put on blast right now in front of everybody?
I'm gonna allow my financial, background.
I can put in 2 bits on that. It's just like the education, it's just like our education district. It isn't in the business to make money. They
Tourism,
don't make money, our education system, do they? No, they educate.
they wouldn't get any, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
So that's pretty much like our rec system, our Parks and Rec.
So you're telling me that we need to we're just throwing money at nothing, is what you're telling me? Or tax-paying dollars?
Program. It's just like our
No,
education system. It's a wonderful program.
So
there
When it works, yes, when it works.
Time out. So, what she's in charge of is, if you're gonna shake your head and you don't wanna hear my answer, then I don't even wanna give it to you. If you
Okay,
don't
go
want
ahead.
a chance to speak and you've already got your mind made up, she's in charge of doing all the parks reservations, she's in charge of making sure that the assist playground was getting finished up and that the grass seed was getting planted over there, to also, she's setting up new rec programs over at the rec center. But she's also taking care of all that, and then she also has to do applications for down here. She's working with our school district as well, going to meetings on that, because we have an ROI with them in collaboration. And this is our future. This is, you have kids in this
Absolutely.
community, and our school district is moving forward, and we are working hand in hand with them and moving forward, our community forward. And it does cost money to make to move a city forward. That's just the bottom line.
Absolutely. You said it.
And I'm not arguing with you about the debt. Tourism is a good investment.
Absolutely.
I'm not, that's why I'm trying to say I'm not arguing with you.
I know, and I'm not trying to argue with anybody here. I want to make sure that my tax dollars are going to something that we will see, right? That they're not being wasted away on frivolous things that we don't need to spend money on. I mean, you sat here and said we hired somebody to do this job, and now we need to hire 2 more people to do this job. Why didn't we do that in the beginning? If we needed 3 people to do the job, why didn't we hire 3 people to do the job? Why did we only hire 1 and now all of a sudden we need 3? I'm just curious.
Happy to chime in. There's a lot to take in there. Few years ago, it was the school district that came to us when we were talking about the soda tax and about programs for children that they have nothing to do. That's the reason we started the recreation program, was for the community. If we were to run a government like a business, you would not have police, you would not have a library, you would not have rec, you would not have courts, you would not have building, planning. All of that stuff does not make money on its own. And it's the use of property taxes and the general pool of funds to make those programs happen. Now, the recreation program and Shauna individually have brought in a lot of grant money to help seed that program. It also got started with grant money from the Ford Family Foundation.
Okay, how much of that?
Sorry. Let me explain. Okay.
And a number of other grants that we received. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I would easily say it's in the several thousand, $100,000 of dollars that have been brought in over the last few years in grant money, and still grants that we will continue to receive to continue that programming. The recreation program specialist and the admin assistant. The admin assistant has been something that the city has been looking to hire for several years. We just did not have any type of what administration felt, and I believe the council had felt at the time, was the proper management in place at parks to administer an admin assistant. Now that that person is there and hired as Shauna, now that there is that supervision for an admin assistant to help out in the areas that we've seen. We've seen a lot of intakes with field reservations, as well as working with our little leagues and adult league softballs. That's why we're bringing in the admin assistant, because we, in addition to giving Shauna the title of Parks and Recreation Manager, we have additionally thrown stuff onto her plate that was not part of her job description originally. And stuff has been just kind of thrown to her because she's now parks. And so a lot of those special use permits that take place in parks, special use permits did used to be at City Hall, it used to be at utility billing, it used to be in City Recorder. It's gone around over the years to different departments because we just haven't found a good fit yet. So we're hoping that with the additional of an admin assistant that has already been planned for the last few years, that will help the process of a special use permit. The recreation program specialist is a need that we've seen in the community because we've seen success in the recreation program. There is a desperate need for youth programs and free programs that we can do as a city for our community. So that's why the recreation program specialist is hired and brought in, so that they can continue those programs throughout the year. Those are offered the movies in the park programs, the play-in parks where you go to a park on a Saturday night and there's kickball or a number of other events and everything. That will be what that program specialist is there for, is to continue those programs, to continue to improve the free programs that we can offer to our community. So it is all in addition to what Shauna used to do as the recreation supervisor.
Well, you said though, somebody was doing those jobs, whether it was here at the
No,
city, at
that's
at
the
the
problem.
water department.
The problem was, a lot of those jobs didn't exist until this got started.
It doesn't matter, somebody was doing them, right? Then maybe the job description of
You got one job
some
versus 15
one
jobs.
I think it was explained well enough for the city council here, and I apologize if it wasn't for you. I will say this, that we do take budget, we take your tax money and we use it as wisely as we can. For my personal home, which is $330,000 by today's standard, the city gets $600 per year versus Scappoose gets $1,000. Now you start going down the streets and you add up that $400 difference. I think this city council and our financial director, we do very good with the available. We are the lowest in Columbia County other than Columbia City. And we are the county seat, the biggest, and we are very fiscally responsible in trying to stretch our dollars and spend them wisely. And trust me, this is something that is a good, we believe is a good investment into our community.
I'm not doubting you, and I'm just here as a member of the community to make sure that my tax dollars are not being wasted away on something that doesn't need to be wasted away on.
That we are.
And you can assure me, it, yeah.
The other thing that you don't see, which is a pain in our butt, is the amount of government paperwork and costs that we have to deal with that doesn't get us a damn thing. But we have to fill out that paperwork. And a lot of our personnel and rules that we have are given to us by the state and the federal government. And I think you and I would both agree they should be kicked out, but we have to do them and it costs money. So some of this is a pain in the neck and a waste of our time and money, but we unfortunately have to do it.
No, I agree. And I'm just curious too, also of something that he said too earlier was, you know, we have Little League and we have softball. These are things that have been around since I was a child. I mean, Little League and softball, t-ball, all these things have been around. Somebody was doing that beforehand. I mean, that's not something new.
No, that's correct.
These are not new things.
There was ownership too. There was ownership that's starting to happen. There's so many different entities out there now. There was ownership of fields, and this city council, we heard it, and we seen it, and we watched it, and we listened to it. And you had between soccer, baseball, with girls to boys to men's to
all of them.
co-eds to co-eds.
Time.
There was always an ownership, and we put an end to that, and we came up with a very minimal fee. Really, if you look at other cities, that get a lot more of your tax out there. If you live there, the value of your home, they get a lot more operating cash than we do. Okay, and we are very minimal. We try to keep costs as low as we can, but we also see needs that need to be met within our community, and that is public safety, of course, number one priority. Public safety. Listening to, it frustrates us. We sit up here and we are chapped. I almost want to drive my boat over there personally, but I can't get it, you know.
Yes, I agree. That's the first I've heard of all that over on the island. That's unacceptable.
Yes.
And honestly, I really wish you guys could do something about it, and I'm sure your hands are tied, but I don't know.
We're working on it.
I hope so, because that is public safety. I mean, me, and I'm sure all of you go over there with your children. You don't want any of that. That's crazy.
Okay, so I hope we've answered your few
I hope so. Well, yeah. For the most
I'm
part.
not satisfied either, so don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
It's frustrating. It just is. You know, when you see the needs and you got a limited budget and you have to take and put it where you feel it needs to go. Any other visitor comments?
Good afternoon. Art Leskowicz. And appreciate all the previous comments and everybody here that serves the community. Trying to keep this short and sweet. My questions are more rhetorical at the moment, but would expect some answers. I'm struggling with understanding the process, and a lot of, again, the comments earlier on had to do with the process and how we see things and how it happens. Even when we look at the agenda for tonight, and I'm doing some research, what's the difference between an ordinance, a resolution, agenda for acceptance or approval? I guess the lowest bar to meet is the approval or authorization for signature. Then we have resolutions, ordinances, and quasi-judicial land hearings. So
Resolutions kind of go with the ordinances and our updates.
So why is it, or how is it, that when we have a project that involves real estate actions, we approve it on very short notice through authorization for signature? Case in point, and I refer you to last year, 1 year ago, almost to the day, the Chronicle, marine business coming to St. Helens. We're all familiar with that. And this business was going to come to St. Helens, bringing us $2 to $5 million annually. Big boost to the local economy. And I was pretty excited when I read about that in the paper last year, knowing what that location was. Actually, you referenced it upstream here in front of the mill site. The placement of the barges that were going to come to town and tugboats was going to be a sublease. Normally that area in the past had been used for staging logs when the mill was active. So we went through many months of what looks like negotiations, executive meetings that deal with real estate transactions. I know all the way back to at least March 4th of that year. And then on very short notice, there was an updated Wednesday, June 17th agenda where the mortgage lease agreement with the company was submitted in the agenda. It was at the work session, then it was voted on or actually approved that evening at the regular session. And my question, I was cleaning up my office the other night just by chance, the Planning Commission was meeting. So I turned it on to listen to the background. And my question was, hey, I might as well take a shot at this. Why was not this real estate agreement that was adjusting a state land lease that we get from the Division of State Lands, and we're also including in that lease agreement an upland portion of our mill property? How did that escape proper process? How did that go from, be potentially $5 million income to just signing off on it? There was a press release, and that was, the date's not important. The date was, I think, in July. The article came out, like I said, July 22nd. The press release was July 15th. It actually was mentioned in Jacob's notes as far as the Planning Commission, St. Helens Industrial Business Park property in the Planning Commission minutes. And he made a report, he worked on the DSL lease, Division of State Lands lease, and included a map. And the only new proposed Wilsonville concrete products are coming in there. And to cut to the chase, great news, but I did a little bit of research into it and come to find out that that waterfront property had not been cleaned up. I was excited because we're going to make revenue from our waterfront. Used to be industrial. Now, light industrial, that'd be great. Mortgage space for this company, wonderful. However, we, the city, John, you signed the application, you also had signed it, made application to lease the most contaminated property we have on that riverfront, high in dioxins and high in PCBs. Did you know that it was contaminated? Why didn't we run it by the Planning Commission? Why didn't we get any other kind of environmental review? We're so proud of the fact that we partner with many, many agencies. We got a lot of smart people in this room. We've got a consultant that we've literally spent over $1 million with as far as guidance. How is it that this escaped us knowing that that property is contaminated? And the Division of State Lands, I don't know. They didn't issue a lease for mortgage there, did they? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, when I mentioned it in the meeting, there was a lot of, the planning meeting, there was a lot of other things, hearings on the agenda. So I had my 7 minutes or so, and that was fine. But Commissioner Dan Carey, who is the chair, he explained that he didn't know why the Planning Commission, which again I would suggest should have got a shot at this review. You know, there was real estate actions taking place there. This wasn't just, approving some kind of surplus property or council minutes. This was a multi-million-dollar project. And he suggested, and I think I had to go back and listen to the recording. He said that it was a guffaw on the city's point. I don't know what a guffaw was. I had to go look it up. A guffaw is a belly laugh. There's nothing funny about this situation. Very disappointed. I've actually been brought to tears when I see some of the things that the city has done and has planned to do. It's atrocious. That's all I have to say for now. Appreciate your time, and I hope we can do better. Ironically, take a look at that newspaper. And on the article, on the inside, what's ironic is that city prepares for a future with their 5 caveats and goals of what their important responsibilities are. Long-term planning, livable, safe communities, long-term planning. We came up short in all those areas with this fiasco. Thanks.
Okay, any other visitor comments? Okay. So we will go on to ordinance, final reading, ordinance number 3268, an ordinance to annex and designate the zone of certain property at 35111 60s Lane. The final reading, folks. If I can get a motion?
Yeah, I move that we adopt ordinance number 3268 as read.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance 3268. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, ordinance number 3269, an ordinance to annex and designate a zone of certain property at 505 North Vernonia Road.
I move we adopt ordinance number 3269 as read.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance 3269. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution number 1927, a resolution adopting a hazardous mitigation plan for the city of St. Helens and superseding resolution number 1814.
I move we adopt resolution number 1927 as read.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1917.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you can.
This is a pile of paper having to do with us interacting with government agencies having to do with safety, FEMA, and a whole bunch of other things. Basically, this is a pile of paper and methodology shoved at us by the government that really should be done so we continue to qualify. It's not really something you would think about, it's just something we have to go through. So for the people who like to read a lot, we have a pile of paper, it's almost 100 pages.
Big pile.
Yeah, so this is some of the stuff we have to fight through, and God bless us, I guess, or at least give us better reading glasses.
Okay. Any other comments? That was all right. That was pretty good. Okay, Council President Morton.
Aye.
Council Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, resolution 1928, a resolution of the City of St. Helens City Council amending the city employee compensation plan for fiscal year 2021-2022.
I move we adopt resolution number 1928 as read.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for resolution 1928. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution 1930, a resolution of the City of St. Helens, Oregon authorizing.
29.
Oh, okay, I'm trying to skip ahead. Resolution number 1929, a resolution of the City of St. Helens Council to set planning department fees.
I move we adopt resolution number 1929 as read.
Second.
Okay, now that's why Jacob's here, if we have any comments. Okay, any comments? Nope, okay. Resolution, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1929. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution 1930, a resolution of the City of St. Helens, Oregon authorizing full paid credit financing and providing for relative matters or related matters. Excuse me.
I move we adopt resolution number 1930 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1930. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution 1931, a resolution rescinding resolution numbers 1878 and 1879, which declare the local state of emergency in the City of St. Helens as a result of COVID-19 pandemic.
I move we adopt resolution number 1931 as read.
Second.
Okay,
Discussion.
Discussion?
Yeah.
So I just curious, if I read it correctly or understand correctly, I think the county recently decided to continue the state of emergency, and I believe the explanation that I read that was that the county did not want to cut themselves off from possibility of some additional funding sources that might be available in the state of emergency. So I'm not sure again about the details of that. I'm just wondering, does this, so if we are to locally declare the end to the emergency, does that have a possible impact on our possibility of accessing revenues or other sources of?
It could potentially. If we didn't act fast, if the world changed again, we didn't go back into a state of emergency.
Yeah, one of the reasons we declared a state of emergency is to, that pipeline of federal funding that's available comes to the city, and that's when this winds down. The answer is maybe, but.
Maybe, but
Probably
we
not.
don't
Don't
okay,
anticipate
maybe,
it.
but probably not, and so we aren't facing possibility of missing out another $3 million through something like ARPA. Okay, that was just I wanted to clarify that because that is what I understood, that the county commissioners continued the state of emergency because they had some concern about perhaps fiscal.
Patrick, was that before this rise, which is the last week and a half, the state of Oregon is starting to go up again? Was that before then?
I think it was within the last month, last
Okay, so it was before the last 2 weeks.
So,
It could always be reinstituted, hopefully not, but,
well, I hope
if there's
not.
$3 million falling out of the sky, I'm sure we
So, no, I just wanted to ask that question. And you
Even the ARPA and CARES Act funds was not a requirement to be in a state of emergency to receive those funds.
Okay. I wonder if maybe there were some other funds that they specifically accessed or whatever, and that was the reason why, so. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1931. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Went out of order, didn't we?
I know, you put me out there, I almost said aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, awarded big contract, award storm drain, abandonment and structural replacement project to two Burnley excavations for $49,500.
I move we award bid contract, award storm drain abetment and structural replacement project to Turney Excavating Incorporated for $49,500.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to award a contract to Turney for $49,550. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
$49,500.
Approve and authorize for signature concessions agreement with Plum River BMX for racing and concession at McCormick Park.
I move we authorize signature.
Hold on, one more. Two more. 10, agreement with Structural Nexus LLC for structural plan review services. And 11, contract payment.
I move we approve and authorize for signature items number 9 through 11 as read.
Second.
Discussion?
Yep.
I was looking at the BMX racing stuff, and is that concession's gonna be open in the current concession stands at the ball fields, or are they gonna construct their own concession stand?
They have their own construction stand, and so they do in lieu of fee, I do believe, right? Isn't that how concessions work? They pay a percentage of their,
They pay a percentage of their profit.
yeah.
I was just curious about where it was located.
And I do believe it's still right there on the track.
BMX track.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's kinda cool. Yep. Snow cones and hot dogs.
National Hot Dog Day.
It is, for yesterday. Yesterday. Okay, enough out of you, Roddy. What's up there? Set agenda for acceptance. 12, library board minutes dated May 10th.
We
didn't
vote on
vote.
that.
Oh, we
right?
did.
We didn't
I saw
vote,
that.
Discuss.
so we were second.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded to approve and authorize for signature 9 through 11. Council President Moore.
Aye.
Council Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Council Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, consent agenda for acceptance. 12, library board minutes dated May 10th to June 14th, 2021. Parks and Trail Commission minutes dated May 10th and June 14th, 2021. 14, Planning Commission minutes dated May 11th, 2021.
I move we accept consent agenda items 12 through 14 as read.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah.
So on 17, the request for qualifications.
Oh, yeah, we're, that's the next
We're in the
club, and I'm gonna actually do it.
Am I, sorry, okay, sorry, I get.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda for acceptance 12 through 14. Council President Moore.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, so now we're gonna go, we skipped some things earlier on our agenda. So being how it's coming up on this item, we will stop and have our discussion at the end of this. Consent agenda for approval. 15, council minutes dated June 2nd and 16th, 2021. 16, declare surplus property, library equipment. 17, request for qualifications and design bid build of new public safety facility. 18, job description of administrative assistance park and recreation. 19, accounts payable bill list, and 20 is OLCC And you'll see on the back of your page are the 2 OLCC licenses that we didn't want to have to put off. It would be Lotus of Bangkok and Grocery Outlet. And then, so we'll go to the job description of the, which I think we have a little bit better understanding, but Matt, you want to go ahead and elaborate just a little bit on that?
Yeah, so we've recently combined Parks and Recreation into one department, hired one manager to oversee both of those departments. That was Shauna Duggan. There are a number of tasks that Shauna will be tasked with now that she is a department manager, which include a lot of administrative meetings, as well as reaching out and having meetings with our partnerships that we have with the school district, as well as a number of other organizations. So there is not enough time in the day to be at all the meetings and do all of the government paperwork that Councilor Topaz absolutely loves. So part of hiring the admin assistant is to help process some of that paperwork in the office, as well as do paperwork for the recreation program and the after-school program and registrations, paperwork, programming, that kind of stuff. Happy to answer any other questions.
And then I think there was some other discussion, I thought, Councilor Berkeley.
Yeah, so 17, the request for qualifications. For the design build of new public safety facility, I guess I was surprised that it's coming at this time, since we haven't made some final decisions or votes on exactly what the facility is going to be and the cost. And looking in the in this request, it does have a estimate of $15 million construction cost. And so I was wondering why that number was chosen, because as I recall, we had three, like a low, middle, and high cost option, and the high cost option was more on 20 million, if I recall, whatever. So I'm wondering about first deal with the timing for the RFQ now before we made that decision, and then on what basis the $15 million figure is used for this RFQ.
Happy to answer that, and I'm sure John can chime in as well. You want to start, or you want me to?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, there's a contingency in there. The project has a pretty heavy contingency in there, because we just don't know this early in the project how much it's gonna cost, but the target is closer to 15.
The initial estimate we received when we went through our first needs assessment with McKenzie Architecture was the high option of $15 million. Then there's about $3 to $4 million of administration costs. Those would be the STC fees, permit fees, those kind of things. And then there is about $1.5 million of that $2 million I mentioned. That is for the actual design and the specifications of getting to the construction documents, basically getting to a build stage. And that is what this RFQ is all the actual design and construction and permitting documents to get us to the bid for build. And so there was the RFQ will go out. I imagine there will be a few companies that, like McKenzie, that will bid on it, as well as somebody else. But it is to go through that design and permitting construction document process to get to where we would go out for a bid for construction. During that design phase is when McKenzie or whoever is winning that, we would come back to City Council, show you those documents, have more discussions with you to finalize the documents. In a couple months is when I will come back to you and we will talk about finalizing the financing for it. You've already approved just a little bit ago I believe it's called Resolution 1930 for authorizing the full faith and credit. So that was approved tonight, and that allows me as a finance director to work with our bond raters as well as our bond counsel to start to look at doing that paperwork to go out for a bond. And this is kind of everything moving in one motion towards that construction process, which is still estimated to be around January of 2023. But the RFQ specifically, Councilor Berkeley, is for getting to the bid date for bidding out the actual building of the public safety facility.
And what's, again, your projection for when, I think, it was in June, mentioned presenting the council with various funding options revised based on the public safety fee fund and all that. When are you anticipating that?
That's gonna be in August, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be the first or second meeting, but one of those next, well, one of these upcoming meetings in August, which is when I will give a presentation along with John to talk about what those options are. Here's what the bond amount will be, here's how much our yearly payment will be, here's what $2 looks like. I've done some financial analysis to show you a $2 fee, a $2.50, and a $3. And so, based on those options, you'll see that there's pros and cons to each one, and you as a council will get to make the decision. And that will allow me and John and the bond council to write the resolution for instituting the fee, likely in October or November, to begin next January.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think I covered it all.
Yeah, everything's queuing up, we're not making.
Correct, yeah, we're not,
Point, other than moving.
we're not shoveling in the ground yet, but we're.
Right,
we're
right,
queuing.
I understand, I'm just trying to understand processes and about this.
And John, I don't know if you want to chat just briefly about the two differences between a design bid build versus design and then, yeah, there's a couple different ways to get the cog of the machine going. And I don't know, John, if you want to describe what those two differences are between a design bid build process and then a design services and then going out.
Yeah, there's different ways to go about construction projects. And some of them, there's efficiencies, there's pros and cons, there's trends of, how, traditionally you hire an architect and engineer, you design a project, get the design done, and you put the project out to bid, and they get a contract with the bids on it, and then you build the project. There's a design, bid, build where you get all of those parties together in the beginning and select your team, and then they kind of work together. They work perhaps more efficiently when the people building it can push back on the architects and the engineers and have a more collaborative kind of process. So making those decisions on how to move forward.
If you have a lot of money, you have 3 or 4 design people that you paid that you haven't even chosen, which we don't have that much money, so we've got to do
Owners'
a job.
representatives that you hire to advocate on your behalf. Yeah.
So, it's a complicated business, just the paperwork's complicated.
Most definitely.
Okay, any other discussion on consent agenda for approval 15 through 20?
I
Okay,
move we approve consent agenda items 15 through 20 as read and as discussed.
Second.
okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda approval for as read and discussed, 15 through 20. Council President Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, we are going to go through and do our action items that we had from earlier. And there was 2 things kicked up, or just one?
1/2. One was the Habitat for Humanity discussion.
Yes.
And then the second was a discussion whether you wanted it as a work session item or
Or for
during
RFP.
council reports for the RFP for
Yeah.
tourism.
Okay. So, I'll start with the Habitat, because it was there first. I think the in lieu of sidewalk fee we have waived before. I like what they do. It's a 3-plex. It's 3 different families coming into our community. We can't waive the SDCs, but we can waive $22,000 on the sidewalk in lieu of fee. And it's our own rules, so it allows us to be able to have some flexibility and do that. Jacob clearly stated that to us earlier.
We have time to know that's a for sure.
Yes, we know that for sure. Don't even know what you're going.
Yeah, no, we've done it before.
Yeah, yes. Yep. So that would not, I'm not recommending this, the SDCs, we have to keep whole. She's getting ready to apply for the permit. It was kind of sensitive.
Yeah, I did catch that.
Yeah. Because Doug asked, you know, and she apologized for being short notice too. And that was a good point though, that we are taking, if you'd like to apply for any application of any grants for the city, you need to fill out the application and we'll review them twice a year.
So where would this money come from?
It's just, it's an in lieu of fee that was created because of newer construction, all has to have sidewalks and be brought up to a city standard. And the little areas in between, we decided that we should adopt that to grab it. So we would have money, even if it's off to the side, to target like the sidewalks on North Vernonia that we just put. Some of that would have came out of that in lieu of fee, but I think most of that was SDCs, but it could potentially.
Yeah, a small portion was out of the street fund. So the in lieu of fee is when you build a house and needs to be a sidewalk. On the road, there's no other sidewalk, so it makes no sense to build a sidewalk for 30 feet. So we have the in lieu of fee to capture that amount, and then Jake up in the planning department can decide where to use that money elsewhere on sidewalks where they make more sense. I think your question was regarding where does the money come from as far as paying that fee?
Yeah.
And it is basically just zeroed out as an administrative cost, and it's not charged.
So we're just writing it off.
Now, there is an option to, depending on how the ARPA funds are used, that could be a qualifying expense for community development if there are extra funds in the ARPA funds available to help pay for that fee. If things work out and things come in less than expected or anything, we have round numbers on that sheet for a reason. So if there's any left over, we could probably easily find 22 grand or so to help pay that fee back to the city.
The other elephant in the room is that's a piece of transport area that's in the connector plan that we don't know exactly what the sidewalks are supposed to look like.
Right.
So we could use our usual thing, repave the street and dig up for the water line technology.
Yeah, yep.
Or just keep it grass right now, and when you lay the sidewalk in for that whole connector place, it all is one piece.
So we have done this prior to, and apparently we forgave some of the SDCs too on that one. Not knowing that, must have been right prior to us having that meeting.
So if we were to make a motion on this, how would that be?
So the in lieu of sidewalk fee of $22,500 and some change, I do recall, I had it written down. I got, my sheet got further up there. But it's the in lieu of sidewalk fee portion of the application for the threeplex that will be built on, it would be Plymouth and 8th Street.
So the motion would be that the fee would either be waived or funds could be used from ARPA to help pay that.
Move that we would waive, move that could be, move that we waive the sidewalk fee for the Habitat for Humanity project on 8th and Plymouth.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. The motion's been made and seconded to waive the sidewalk fee for the Habitat for Humanity on 8th and Plymouth. Council President Morton?
Aye.
Councilor Topaz?
Aye.
Councilor Chilton?
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Okay, and then our other item was the RFP for tourism.
Well, I'll just start with a motion and then we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we direct staff to bring back RFPs for tourism production management, and that we direct staff with continuing the tourism committee plans with involvement from this council as we make changes to the tourism contract.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
I'll start. I think from the climate of what I heard tonight in council chambers,
I didn't hear anyone speak against tourism. I heard so many positive things happening with tourism from so many different people, different factions of the business community, and I just have to, I was in awe of some of the testimony. All the testimonies quantify that. The other thing that I can speak to is that I've been on the council for quite some time. And I saw, when I came onto the council 14 years ago, I saw the tourism committee at war with each other. Conflict beyond belief. Trying to figure out who can run the thing, who was really at the purse strings of the monies that were there. What businesses were profiting from it. A lot of pointing, a lot of confusion, and finally, it came to a total apex of discontent from many citizens, and John was new, and we were sitting there one time, and the committee, a committee of people came together and says, we've got to do something about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, and I think it was $72,000 that went astray in the tourism group. So, what are you going to do about it? We were upstairs, and there was, I think, 5 individuals. I think some of them were from Shedco. And they go, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix this? And so we huddled, and John had the idea that, the city should take tourism over. That the conflicts were so toxic, and any time that tourism came into the council chambers, there seemed to be yelling and pointing and shouting and that kind of thing. And then director of tourism could not hold anything together with the board of tourism individuals who made up the board. I think a long story short, what John did, I think, has really cleaned up our tourism group. And we hired, after that, I believe we hired Tina. We've gone through requests for proposals twice. And Tina won out on both of those interviews. And by unbelievable margin of favorability. So what's happened, I just saw tourism at shambles. I'm seeing it to a point now where it is functioning, and I do agree with people who made those testimonies of how effective and how efficient it is. And there's some reason, I really tried to search and really tried to figure out what the resentment is of Tina running the program. I can't figure that out. I've just heard many kinds of things, and I don't think there's really a need for a request for proposals at this time. And I just wanted to weigh in on that so that I'm airing my opinions out of experience and out of observation.
Now, I'm going to tell you about my observations. I own a business downtown too, and Halloween Town doesn't help me at all, although we've produced some things for Halloween Town. I can tell you by the car count, when Halloween Town a few years ago was really going, I had cars parked out by my business on Thursday nights, and now I don't see anywhere near the parking of people showing up for 13 nights. even Halloween Town, which goes a long time, I see the crowds diminishing. The other thing, we've had a lot of angst because the tourism company has closed off streets and done other things. And typically, if anybody wants to close off a street, the business has to be okayed by the council. And I've seen a lot of mechanism circumventing the council. The other thing, I've been part of Shedco, and there was tourism did not, the company of tourism did not play well with other people. They wanted to run everything, and they did without much help. And we had an interesting comment about the 4th of July. We're talking how wonderful the plaza was. They forgot to say that Judy Thompson put the plaza together with the veterans and some other people, and what was on Strand Street was the tourism. So the biggest part of this 4th of July was not tourism. We have a high parking lot, a high-cost parking lot for the 4th, which is run by tourism, and police and other people designated to take care of some of that in not such a polite manner. So we don't have what I call a happy business. Now, the businesses that are making money because of tourism, restaurants, people downtown in what is lovingly known as Old Town. Doesn't help my business, it doesn't help many businesses up in Houghton or other places. And it definitely does not, the way the attitude goes, is does not bring the community together. We need to actually change, not get rid of Halloween Town. We need to expand tourism if it's going to be City of St. Helens business is tourism. We need some more ideas, not less ideas. So the fact that it isn't broke doesn't mean that it shouldn't be improved. And right now we're in big need of improvement.
I believe that we did have, I think it was April, that we had our public forum, and I think that we already had given some discussion and had proposed that John look at coming up with, helping us to determine what we wanted tourism to look like. I still stand by this, that, well, first of all, I would like anybody to go back in the public record and hear me being critical of the efforts that are being done by Tina. And I do not believe that asking questions, reviewing and evaluating programs from a broader basis, is attempting to cut someone off at the limbs, is saying they're doing a bad job. That's not what it is. I agree with Councilor Topaz that as we look, there's no doubt in my mind that Halloween Town, 13 nights, 4th of July, had an immense benefit on our businesses down here in the Riverfront District. Much of our attention as a council, in years to come, is going to, of course, be focused on the development of the riverfront. But we do have businesses in the Houlton Business District. We have businesses on Highway 30. We have businesses elsewhere that perhaps they too are being, they're benefiting. But I have yet to see, and if I haven't been asking the right questions, or I'm going to be asking those things now. Where are the facts and figures? For example, in the report that Tina provided on April 15th, she provided a chart that show the impact of businesses, or I came found a business in the Riverfront District. When I first looked at this, I was thinking that this kind of showed the impact on a number of businesses in the Riverfront District, and as I understand, it primarily shows what the impact was with two C's. Okay, with two C's. Definite impact, positive impact in October. But that was one business. And in that graph, there were no specific figures. And for proprietary reasons, I did talk with Mitzi at 2Cs. You know, she doesn't want to be talking about what her, you know, her profits are and stuff like that as a business owner, which is her right. But I do think there is value in having real numbers. And in years past, when I was in the budget committee and others, I guess I do want to find out where we, you know, clearly have what the impact is on not only our businesses here in the Riverfront District, but what is the impact to our wider community. We have an obligation to promote and support them as well. So that doesn't mean we don't support Halloween Town and 13 Nights, but can we do, as we talked about in April, look at a broader or a different focus or way of looking at tourism in our city? And as Councilor Topaz said, it just because it isn't broken doesn't mean it cannot be improved. And there are improvements that I believe can be made that I have that in conversations I have had with members of our community, with visitors to our community, who are overall like Halloween Town. They're glad we do Halloween Town. But maybe there are some rough things around the edges or whatever that we can look at and improve. Why is the desire to look at that and to also look at I'm looking at things in our services coordinate, you know, our contract, our personal services agreement, and some other things that, and this is probably our fault as a city, that we haven't made sure that we follow through on the process of checking out on things. So, for instance, we do have the right to, if we wanted to, and I don't see that need right now because I want to also make clear there was nothing said this afternoon by any counselor here after Matt explained how the budget works, how our auditor explained how the budget worked. And I said clearly, there is no intent, we're not questioning underhand, not getting the money underhand. We are trying to understand better, exercise our responsibilities. So, is it important if Matt is cutting a check for props that the city owns, that we know what we own and where those are, which I understand is what the committee is doing. So I have a difficult time understanding why just asking some questions is suddenly perceived, it was perceived as it was in April, as let's get Tina. And it's not that is not you will not hear that in any statement I have made at the council. So, I would support the development of a product because the current contract, which actually expired, does not reflect what we plan to do in the future, i.e. 4th of July is no longer part of that. So what's the impact going to be in terms of the money we spend each month for Tina's services? Does it stay 10,000? But then do we add additional duties or whatever, or do we keep it the same because most of the time is spent on Halloween Town 13 Nights? I think these are things that deserve legitimate review. And if we put out RFP, if Tina, again, is the only candidate, the most qualified, so be it. But we do have a responsibility as a council to review programs and things and how our money is spent. And I don't understand why this is perceived as an attack. So, I would support this motion.
Well, I'll jump in next with, first of all, saying that this is not a witch hunt by any means. This is not a personal attack on anybody. This is a revamp of our tourism program, and if you don't see the problems, you haven't been looking hard enough. Because I have a list of them after talking with city staff, after talking with police, after talking with citizens. There's a whole list of them. And if you want to, I can just read a couple. Wrong events listed in the contract, number one. We all know that. We have to fix that. More structure added to the financial check system. That was brought about today in the audit. Prop inventory system. We don't have a prop inventory system right now. Structure added to ticket sales and running of the store and public relations. We all know those are problems with tourism. We have to address them. With that, we need to look at the contract, revamp the contract, wipe a clean slate, and seek a new RFP, and the best candidate will win that. And I believe that is the way to clean it up, fix it, put it back out there as a working, cleaned up product.
That's a good question.
No, this is our deliberation. Well, I don't think it's broke. I just, I'm kind of shocked. I'm not opposed to putting it out for an RFP, but, it definitely makes a person not feel very good that your job at TCMH is now under a review and you can reapply. That doesn't feel very good. That tells me that I'm not important enough. That's a human being out there, and if you had issues with those, I'm asking you, have you approached Tina Curry, Council Berkeley, with those great ideas of moving forward? Have you approached Tina Curry on those issues that you're discussing right now? That's my ask to you right now. Have you manned up and talked to Tina? And I apologize for the words. I'm a raised around here, and I apologize.
I don't believe that the questions that I have can be answered by Tina, because I'm talking about the stem of Tina. This isn't about Tina, like I said before. This is not a personal attack, Mr. Mayor. This is us saying that we need to do better with the overhead of tourism. We are in the hole, we're in a deficit. That is a bad sign. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
As a city councilor, it is my duty to encourage and champion cities. People, go right to it. I will champion the city, I will compliment and reinforce often. I will suggest and recommend when necessary. Number 6.
I choose to communicate primarily through city staff, just for this, just as I would with OTAC or other consultants. Tina is not a city employee. She is a contractor. And I prefer that my communications are first directed, and I will continue to, if I do have conversations with Mrs. Curry, to make sure that John, others are CC'd on it, but I would prefer, and I have reasons that I am not going to talk about here in the public forum, that I prefer to work through the city administrator and the city administration to address these issues.
Okay. I know if I was to see anybody struggling out there, and I thought I could help them out, wouldn't even have to be, if I was in an authoritative position, I would offer at least my advice in order to, I just live on spiritual terms that require me to speak up when I see those issues arise and say what I'm thinking at that point in time, and hope that the person understands the reason I'm saying it. So, and again, I think on our ROI, on what tourism has done, do we have anybody to take over 4th of July? I know there's been a little bit of interest, but who is that?
I've been approached by somebody who wants to take on the financing, and he's made contact with John. And he's in the financial business.
Steve? Yeah. That was, yes, I was in contact with Steve. But that's still not the fireworks, that's financial. That's still not getting the permit, talking to Heather, doing the parking, doing the band, who's gonna take this over? Trust me.
We've had, how many weeks since the fall?
I'm just telling you, trust me, we take Independence Day seriously around here. And I did state in that April meeting, be careful what you guys ask for. I did state that, and I want to state it again for the record, that I have nothing to do with if 4th of July does not happen next year, personally. I'm stating that for the record again. And I did at that meeting. So.
Are we ready to vote on this motion?
Well, no, I'm still having my discussion, like everybody has their time.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was on topic.
So, that was perfectly on topic because it is tourism related this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so, the question is do we even know what the proposal is for going out for bid? Are we including 4th of July is why I was asking that question, and it was very well related to tourism because it was in their wheelhouse for the last 4 or 5 years since the foundation dissolved.
Well, that's part of the
So,
motion.
and that's another thing, is I'm not always trying to talk down to you. I'm trying to also give you history that I have a little bit of knowledge with the history and the operation side of things. Like, for example, I was not attacking Councilor Berkeley at our last meeting. I was trying to figure out a relationship between two different entities.
Is this on topic?
This is, I'm just trying to tell you that I'm not always trying to, what is perceived as me attacking is not always the case. Because I am trying to find out information on information I had from history. So, it did need to be discussed. So I apologize if it did perceive like I was attacking you, Councilor Berkeley, I was not, okay? So there's my public apology. All right, so that, yes. So, again, I think Halloween Town is huge. I wish we could move it uptown. I wish we could take that building in the square and ship it uptown to those businesses. But unfortunately, the way Main Streets work is a vibrant downtown, because I did Main Street seminars, and I have looked at that, and I am participating in the new Main Street program, which was formerly Shedco. And for every city to survive is having a thriving downtown district. That is where it's at. And that is at the state level. That's not me just talking. So tourism has brought it here. And I've heard lots of compliments. I've heard the same old few people that have, I guess, once you're mad at Tina, you're mad at Tina. I guess that's just it. So,
one of the problems, I'm quite familiar with a couple people who design and run efforts, seminars, whole conferences, South Africa, Bangkok, Greece, places in the United States, mainly for medical, where they have thousands of people and you have lots of moving parts. There are people who handle situations like that where there are lots of moving parts, and we don't have very many moving parts in our Halloween Town. I really think we have to expand what we're doing, and doing the same old thing, even though it's good, does not make it bigger. It gets tiring and people leave. We've got to widen our horizons. It isn't saying, again, what we're doing is wrong, but we've got to widen our horizons. We definitely have to get the whole town involved. Not just located, but involved. We have not, in the last few years, gotten the citizens of St. Helens to be involved in our Halloween Town. We have a few businesses that thrive better, but when you take a look at businesses where most of your employees are minimum wage, the owner-operator is there, we're not talking about businesses which have 50, 80 employees that are getting better. We need a bigger picture, and that's what we've got to put in this RFP. What are we going to do to continuously improve and enlarge our tourism situation? And right now, we do not have any descriptions about improving and enlarging. That's what we've got to do. Didn't say get rid of what we have, but we've got to add improve, enlarge, and incorporate the whole town. And also have our citizens participate. And our citizens don't participate.
They don't want to.
All right.
Because they're lazy.
You can't comment. So, all I can say for myself is that, what I heard out there is the citizens do not want to get involved. I'm telling you that right now. We've been putting out this 4th of July thing for how long? And plugging it.
Got the wrong
And
people.
nobody's stepping up. Hey, you can have it. Main Street can have it. Whoever. Bring us a nonprofit. Start raising money now. We started plugging this back 2 months ago. We have one guy who's financially Steve, and that's because I probably talked him into it, and he likes what's going on down here, and he's new here, and he likes what's going on downtown. I introduced him to Tina. He complimented her on the 13 nights. As a matter of fact, I got a message from him right now saying I'll probably see you down the river. I'm out of town right now. He's invested in our community, but no. But the one guy that you say you have is only talked about he'd like to help financially. Was our conversation.
Rick, were you around when the Maritime Festival got started?
Absolutely, I've lived here for a long time.
Do you know what part I played in the Maritime Festival?
Do you remember the boat races out here, the tunnel boat races?
Yeah. Do you remember what I did in the Maritime 2 years? Do you remember that?
I remember Chuck Ramsdale having his little boat, built boats out front.
Do you remember what I did in organizing that?
You probably called up some people like Chuck and got them involved.
If that was the only thing, boy, I had an awful lot of travel. Didn't go anyplace.
I'm sure.
Sorry. You just told everybody how much you knew, and yet you didn't tell anybody how much I did. And that's fine, and I don't expect you to know that. But that's the attitude. Only you have a good idea. We didn't say your ideas were bad, but only you can have them. I had some ideas, other people had some ideas, and you don't want to hear about it. You yell at us.
I'm not yelling at you. I said that nobody has stepped, you said citizens need to be more involved. I'm asking, why haven't the citizens stepped up?
Because of some of the personalities they've had to work with in the city. We gotta get to it.
So, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call this thing to a vote. There's been a motion made and seconded to approve for an RFQ for tourism. Council President Morton.
Nay.
Councilor Topaz.
Aye.
Councilor Chilton.
Aye.
Councilor Berkeley.
Aye.
And I'm a nay as well. So obviously divided a little bit, but a motion passes. We'll put it out for RFQ.
Well, we'll bring a RFQ document
Yeah.
back to you for your
Approval.
approval, and I think there's some work to do with that to
With
get
the
it.
contract also.
Yeah. So, okay, so that was that. So now we're going back to our earlier item on our agenda, which was strategic plan update. Matt?
I don't have anything, it was just the two things that were approved this evening.
Okay. And then we'll go to our administrator report. John Walsh.
I was gonna off with a big positive note on 4th of July, and what a great show and good turnout and wild success it was. And, I thought it was a good time by all. I wanted to make a correction to Mr. Leskowicz's statement earlier about the waterfront only to the effect to not cause any undue confusion about pollution in the river and the city's waterfront. The area that he's talking about is the area on the industrial site, not on this, not on the, right here. The multi-million-dollar deal was not a multi-million-dollar deal. I don't know what that was about, but I think it's important to understand that the city didn't purchase the water or the in-water piece. We have we intentionally purchased the uplands. We leased the water space above it just for that reason. We didn't want to be responsible for the contamination in the river and all along the channel. The opportunity to have this type of the Wilsonville Concrete come in and lease this property was something that we worked with DSL closely because that's the appropriate agency to do that. There was some kind of a miscommunication between DSL and DEQ, and that, although the council did approve that, we never consummated the deal because the DEQ basically ended up retracting their approval. They initially approved it and then communicated with the DSL. DEQ talked and then they froze it. We backed off. We then learned that the parent company that does have that responsibility, Boise has a parent company, OfficeMax. So Boise American Paper and OfficeMax, it's been in discussions with DEQ on a voluntary cleanup program, so they're going after the steps to clean that up and make it usable for us in the future. And we are highly tuned into that because we want to make sure that we have a working waterfront and a bright future for the community. So that avoids any confusion there. But, tonight we were supposed to have the Riverwalk review of the design alternatives from the Technical Advisory Committee that got kicked off to the next meeting. And there's a lot of work. There was four meetings in that. What I'm talking about with that is the Riverwalk project there's two phases. One's essentially a boardwalk along Columbia View Park, extending a little bit onto the mill site, and there's also a redesign of the park, inner workings, the stage, configuration, fully funded, 100%. And then there's phase 2, which the Riverwalk design that goes from View Park all the way down to the end and connecting to Plymouth. And a lot of hard work, a lot of consultants, and some council involvement. And but we're going to kick that off. We're going to see it next week, and it's really exciting, and it's really a bright spot for the city's future. Earlier we mentioned that we were finding some signs in the attics and spaces. One of the signs that we found is a sign for Columbia View Park, and we have some pictures of it to put up. We're looking at putting it back up, and it's a beast. It's two-sided, it's 10 feet each long and 4 feet tall. And we're thinking about a potential spot for the installation of it. And at this point, it's we don't. Putting on the waterfront right now doesn't make a lot of sense when we're going to be in the construction phase next year, so we're looking at perhaps an interim location. And one of the locations that we met on-site staff and kind of thought that might work the best is on the Riverview side of the viewing platform. Again, on the concrete wall there. You'd only be able to see it on one side, but that would be a spot that would be just sitting in storage and has been there for a decade. So. We'll put that up there.
Just put it in between those plants there?
Just put it, set it on the wall right there. It's pretty big.
It'll likely be temporary.
Sure. Yeah. So we figured it's of such a magnitude that the council would want to know and have a hand in it, so. We looked it on the gazebo and it was it's a little beastly for that. So.
Well, aren't you gonna build a gazebo?
So you could see it from the river, see it from downtown?
I think in the Riverwalk phase that perhaps over the top of the gangway going down to the docks would be a wonderful spot.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. Being that all of that's gonna change real soon here in the next year, spending a lot of effort to do that doesn't make a lot of sense. Consider this as an interim.
That's it, okay.
That's all right with it, we'll make it happen.
Okay. So do I have a report? I have actually an ad.
That wasn't my entire report.
Oh. You looked at me like that's all I have. Well, continue on, John.
Okay. So, communications, Cameron, or Crystal and Cameron, you'll notice that your monthly newsletter that comes out by the email letters is getting longer and longer. So they've decided to cut that in half, so we're gonna go up to a 2-week cycle, so you get this information a little more timely, a little more frequent, a little less to read. Hopefully that's appreciated, and for as long as we're in this phase of a lot of really big, busy projects and a lot happening, that, that'll work. And if it gets to be a point where it's, not having enough content, we'll probably go back to a month. That doesn't seem to be in the immediate forecast. So now is the time of year we look at the League of Oregon Cities Conference in Bend, October 20th to 23rd. Many cities take their entire council to go to that meeting. It's a lot to ask. It's 3 or 4 days, depending on if you're there for all of it. But August, the reason we're talking about it early is because the hotels, when they release on August 2nd, it's at the River House, fill up really, really fast. So Kathy's in the past has gotten blocks and given it, turned a few back in. It's usually a great conference. It's great that it's going to be in person. We missed it last year. Last year was virtual, which wasn't.
Yeah, I ended up at the neighboring hotel last time.
Really nice when you come along.
And you can't, they've changed it over the last couple of years to where you have to actually go in and register in order to get hotel reservations. I can't make the reservations. You guys have to, on August 2nd, I suggest you go in there and register and get your hotel.
Are you gonna go down to Bend personally to register?
No, in the package of
Oh.
registering for the conference.
Roma, though,
Pardon me?
you did for Roma, right?
I did what?
You registered for Roma?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's
But
the
we-
thing you're
but-
registering for.
But yes, well, do we have to register ourselves for?
Yeah, because you have to go in and select what classes you want to go to.
Oh, okay, just free for all, and what do you want to go to, and what you don't want to?
You mean me?
He means the day of,
Us.
like while you're there.
Oh, no.
Us, other than
They
the
need to
tours.
estimate- They need to estimate how many people are gonna be in each class.
Okay.
Are they gonna pass out smoke, equipment like face masks?
If you really need to.
Yeah.
Free for all.
That's not
Good
what it
attitude.
costs.
Sorry, John.
So get with me or Kathy if you have the time. Just to this extent we can. We've got a presentation on the 7th Street lots. I'm glad Carl Kaufman came in and talked about that to show you that his business model and the city's role in that. About the projects, the business park infrastructure design is moving forward with the consultant. The riverfront street design is also moving with the utilities. Safety facility, we made a few key steps tonight. Wrapping up some filming here over the next few weeks with the documentary over the St. Helens waterfront with some business orphan funding. It's looking to be it's really pretty fun and exciting project to look at the history and where the city's going from a film sense. The virtual world seems to be the way to communicate these days. Main Street, we made some key steps recently with Main Street with revitalizing the board, coming up with job descriptions, supporting that organization to get back on its feet.
Next Tuesday.
And
Main Street program, right?
There's a selection committee tomorrow.
Next Tuesday is the meeting.
The meeting. Looking forward to the Return of Citizens Day on August 7th. And my final note, which was an opportunity for Chief Greenway to make his request for funding for a banquet dinner. He's not here. I don't know the amount, so.
500.
But you wanted to,
It's the yearly award show banquet that they do.
I plan on meeting with them next week to discuss it, so I could.
I don't know if there's a meeting before it or when it is, but if there's a funding request, the council's gonna act on it.
Yeah.
Supported it in the past.
And you have that number, Kathy?
It's $500.
I would like to entertain a motion that we support the awards banquet for, because I can make a motion because it's not fun. That we put 500 towards the award ceremony for the police department.
Second.
Okay. All in
He's a
favor?
nay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I just wanna see you get your ticket.
Okay, anything else, John? All right. So now I'll go on to, what do I have to report? I will be going to OMA, Oregon Mayor Association down in North Bend next week. Going to meet with a bunch of mayors, a lot of good work sessions that are on the agenda. And just nice to be back to an in-person meeting, very, very insightful and helpful. You know, a few of the mayors that have really stepped up and helped me out, or one, for example, she took an award at the League of Oregon City last event was Kathy Clark of Kaiser and Mayor Callaway of Hillsborough. Those two have helped me out quite a bit when I first came in, and I look forward to reconnecting and just building those relationships, because it's just, government is government, it's the same across the board, and they've got some years of experience, so looking forward to getting back to those meetings and meeting with them. And long ways though, North Bend Mill Casino is quite a drive, so but it'll be nice to be down there on the coast. And, so I had a couple citizens approach me that got hit at one that got hit at the crosswalk at Don's Rental and Ace Hardware, and another one had almost gotten hit while he was with that friend on a totally different day. So I would like to just run it through Mohammed to see if that warrants a flashing yellow, because it is kind of a bad spot. You have people trying to come out of the Ace.
Mm-hmm.
You have people over there, the gray fourplex right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be an ideal spot for, because I drove by and went to people like I didn't see right off that, coming out of that gray corner there, and I don't know why. You can come this way, you think you'd see them, but you don't. So, it can't cost a whole lot of money to put those flashing yellow crosswalks. I would.
Signs, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
flashing signs.
Yeah.
It's the paperwork that kills you.
Yeah.
Think of Millard Road business.
So,
Oh.
but would you guys be opposed to, I'm gonna go ahead and, I guess, make a motion to see if you guys would be in favor of it, if Mohammed says it warrants that it could just get that ball rolling on that. I think it's a safe streets.
I mean,
Yeah.
study it and determine if it's.
Yes,
Yeah, looking into one thing, prescribing a solution might not be the best appropriate.
yeah.
And there's manuals and ODOT access guidelines.
On residential, I know it's a collector, but on residential street, ODOT.
A certain distance back from the arterial.
Okay.
From highway.
Okay. Because we've heard that before, but I see a lot of other cities put yellows wherever they wanna put a yellow flashing light.
Direction to Mohammed to.
Address it.
Address it and.
So I'm gonna direct John Walsh.
Thank you, I will, John. I already made myself a note.
Okay, and then another one is, this sounds kinda corny, but I feel for this lady too, and I feel the same way. Deer crossing signs down here on 4th Street.
I've heard.
Yes.
I've heard from her also.
Yes, Pat, and I definitely gotta agree with her. There are so many deer down there, and that there's so high speed, and just if we could even save one little baby deer, because they're little, right, little spots and everything.
Well, Portland Road's got a
It
We've got a
does.
flock of them.
So,
Yeah, they cross right there.
so I'm sure we could put a deer crossing sign there. Maybe we have to check with ODOT and the governor, and might as well call the Secretary of State.
Address that one too.
And that's,
No, Rick, there's something else. To advertise St. Helens, come to St. Helens to see the deer cross the street.
yes.
You know when they're out of
Love our
towners,
city. Love
they're
our
stopping
city.
in the road because somebody's got deer in their front yard.
Tied into Twilight.
I love our city deer. So, the only thing else I got to report is that the city did not burn down on the 4th of July. Our citizens did a good job, our policemen did it, I seen you guys up on the roof, I didn't see you
Yeah, that was
doing
awesome.
the Cupid shuffler or whatever you need you to do, but, I seen the video of that, and, yeah, so, good job for the citizens of not burning down our city. Cause we did have a few people saying ban fireworks, and us as a city council, you know, we let the state, our fire marshal do his job, and he did, he said, keep it safe, keep it legal, keep it safe, or what was the slogan, it was keep it legal. Anyhow, so, I forget it, but he had a good little slogan. So, it all went well over there on the island, couldn't ask for a better, Western, it was totally professional. They kept me busy just transporting them back and forth, and, but totally professional, and it was a really good shoot, so. And thank you to Comcast, who sponsored us. It was a great show and a great turnout, so. That's all I got to report. Council President Morton.
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about, thank you. Talk a bit about parks and what's going on with parks. And I think a lot of us know that the dedication of the playground equipment from the Blazers Fund, from that grant, will be dedicated at our Citizens Day celebration, August 7th. 11:30. Thank you, Mayor. And so that's big in McCormick Park. That's really making that area where the Veterans Plaza is into a children's plaza right across the parking lot. If you haven't seen it, please drop down by and take a look. And it's very popular with the kids, parents as well. Colorful, and that's so nice. It's nice to see. One of the things I want to comment is about our Friends of program that we've got going and how successful that has turned out to be. There's been some issues with, what is Friends and what are their, what kind of activities can they do and what they can't do and that kind of thing. And I know one of our most effective friends is sitting down at the end of the table here. It's Pat Brickley, who seems to be a friend of Nob Hill Nature Park, a friend of every park, any kind of nature park there is, and very much appreciated with his work. Recently, Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, the Botanical Garden, cleanups, pulling ivy, invasive species, that kind of thing. The Friends are really hard at work doing those kinds of things. I was went over to the Botanical Garden cleanup, and there must have been 20 individuals at least working for 3 or 4 hours, a half day. And so those kinds of things are happening as well as in Nob Hill Nature Park. It's going well. It's really good. It's very effective. Other than that, we're really looking at trail connectivity and for our pedestrians, because we don't have a bicycle and pedestrian committee anymore, so the Parks has consolidated that. And one of the things that we did that was really interesting, I went with our new public works director, Mohammed Zaire, and
one of the past Parks Commissioners, Jerry Belcher, myself, and Mohammed walked the new proposal for the urban trail. Now, the urban trail is one of those things that we feel is going to benefit not only our citizens, but people who visit our town as well. And so there's one of the kind of devices that can reach both our citizens and visitors as well. Let me explain just a little bit about the urban trail. It's going to cost a whole lot, and I won't say how much, Brady, but it isn't going to cost a whole lot to construct this trail, and it's pretty much constructed already, and it will involve starting at the courthouse, walking down the riverfront trail where the boardwalk will be, going upstairs to Nob Hill Nature Park. I don't know how many of you have done that, but that's a nice walk once you get up to Nob Hill Nature Park, over to the new 5th Street where the wetland walking boardwalk is. That goes up 5th Street, and it stops, and it can go either down to 4th or over to 6th. If you go down to 4th, then the urban trail follows the sidewalk to the Cozy Corner. From the Cozy Corner, it goes, you can do a short loop, which would be a mile, and come back to the courthouse where you started. Or you could continue, go through Godfrey Park, go up to Wyeth Street. Then from Wyeth Street, there's a staircase that goes down to another park. That's Great Cliffs Waterfront Park. Then down River Street, and you're back to the little rose garden over here. A total of 6 parks that this urban trail in a figure 8 configuration, you can either walk 1 mile one way or another mile the other, but 2 miles all the way around, and some of the most beautiful views of our city, of the river, and it also takes you through some businesses in the riverfront district, if you care to. I mean, it's something that I think would be the hub for our trail system. So our trail connectivity can go off of that to other parks, to other places, and I think that's exciting. It's for our citizens, a safe passage. There'll be signage, not big signage, little signage of where things are. It'll be on a kiosk down here, showing individuals who are new to our town where our urban trail is, how you can stem off and go to a grocery store, how you can do this, how you can do that. I just think it's exciting. So that's where we're at with our Parks Commission and what we're doing in parks. I'll leave it right at that.
Doug, are you gonna give them a scorecard to see how many deer they can count along that way?
That's right.
Because there's really a lot of deer in that trail that you just
They
described.
could do deer count, right. Okay, so anyone who wants to count deer, that can happen. I have nothing against that. All right, I don't even think we need a motion on that. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Councilor Topaz.
I've got 4 things to talk about. One is called freedom of speech. One is reading 2 documents. One is waterfront wording, and the other is ferry and some multiple opportunities there. We in this council have visitor comments, of which there are many things said, some true, some false, some half true. And my personal feeling is I will defend to my last breath the right for people to say it. Sometimes we don't agree, sometimes we want to get up and beat on somebody, but I think it's incredibly necessary that we keep that going. We used to have comments in the newspaper, which, if you look at the editorial page of both the Chronicle and Spotlight, we don't see anymore. So it's good that the city council keeps this place where people can voice their opinions, good, bad, or indifferent. And I will definitely always keep that going. I know people don't want me to do it, but whatever the heck. Now, the two documents I'm gonna read, they're from the Government Ethics Commission. Nicholas G. Herman, Lower Columbia Law Group, LLC, 52490 Southeast 2nd Street, Suite 10, Scappoose, Oregon. Reference Stephen Topaz case number 21-0814ESM. Dear Mr. Herman, this is to confirm that the Oregon Government's Ethics Commission at its meeting on June 11th considered the preliminary review report regarding allegations Matthew Brown made against your client Stephen Topaz. The commission did not find cause to proceed with an investigation. Therefore, the matter is dismissed and no further action is taken. Encloses the final order of dismissal. Please do not hesitate to contact investigator Susan Myers if you have any questions or desire additional qualifications. Sincerely, Ronald A. Brisson, Executive Director. Second, a final order of dismissal in a matter of Stephen Topaz. At the Oregon Government's Ethics Commission meeting June 11, 2021, the Commission considered the preliminary review report regarding allegations that Stephen Topaz may have violated Oregon government ethics law. The Commission voted to dismiss the matter. Now, therefore, after considering the relevant portions of the Commission's file relating to this matter, the Oregon Government's Commission enters an order of dismissal in the matter of Stephen Topaz. Signed, Dan Madison, Chairman. The report, which is 16 pages, which I didn't bring, I'm not going to read, brought out a few points. That John Walsh knew years ahead of time the conditions that I spoke about when I asked a question at a budget meeting. So did the mayor. That they knew the geologic problems of the water drainage. John said nothing. The mayor talked against Mr. Topaz. The question of ethics, did Mr. Topaz speak at a meeting that was public? The answer was yes. Was this meeting such that other people could speak? The answer was yes. Therefore, what Mr. Topaz asked was not an ethical problem. Was this a comment by Mr. Topaz for his own benefit? The answer is no. Mr. Topaz is part of a class. The class in this case is described as the neighborhood, so no ethics violation there. Was Mr. Topaz going to financially gain anything? The answer is no. No ethics violation there. So in all questions that were brought against Mr. Topaz, the commission and the investigation found no violations of the law. Now we know that the talk of these violations resulted in Mr. Topaz being censured. And yet nothing was done wrong.
One thing that you are trying to clear yourself with the board, with the ethics, they're not even looking at it. We hired a private investigator. That was one of the things that, no, wait a minute, Matthew Brown has nothing to do with our investigation. This is the Oregon Ethics Commission. This is not our investigation, which was founded to be sustained and true. I'm not gonna let spin true.
Okay, keep going, and then.
Because I have my.
Okay, keep going.
So, what I'm saying is I'm not gonna allow you to sit here and spin truths about an ethics complaint that Matthew, and I did call you out at that meeting, and I swear it was unethical, and you should have never asked for that stormwater to be fixed in your project in that meeting, and it is on video. If anybody has any question, July, no, it was, we can reference it. I can bring you the exact time. But you're trying to spin that into the investigation that the city council had against you. You are still sustained and found that you did everything sustained that was sustained in there.
No, unfortunately for you, you're wrong again.
No,
hold it, it's my turn, it's my turn. The commission,
my meeting, Councilor Topaz.
the commission investigated your investigator, The commission investigated the
Counselor.
the court case in 2009 and found that there was physical problems with the engineering
Counselor
of the
Topaz.
thing.
Wait, you're out of
Your
order.
engineer, your investigator was found not to
You're out
be
of
true.
order. You're out of order.
I'm talking-
You're out of order.
No, I'm
You're out
not.
of order. Yes, you are.
No, because you're
Yes.
trying to take away
No,
my
I'm
freedom
not.
of speech.
I am not taking away your freedom of
Yes,
speech.
you are.
What you are trying to do is take the council right here and say that our decision. That's good. That's fine.
Gotta go back for my report. Okay, I have to go back for my report.
So I just want to also to clarify that when I call point of order, I call point of order. And that is the way it is. I reside over this meeting, okay? That's the bottom line. I run this meeting. If anybody has a problem with it, they can be dismissed. I'll have Colton Edwards take you out. This is my jurisdiction. And I will use my authority when I have to. And I haven't had to do it very often. And I don't feel good about it. But when he's spinning a truth, trying to spin a truth against this entire council, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to lies and disruptions and these bombs that keep being placed by Councilor Topaz. And if the media hears that, that's exactly what happened, and that's why he was gavelled down. It's unfounded and true that he's trying to use an ethics complaint filed by a citizen or even an employee, doesn't matter. He's justified and ours has no. We had legal representation. We had a thorough investigation that was ordered by the council and it was sustained. I'm not gonna sit here and have him try to clear his name when we all agreed and voted on that disciplinary action. And also, we had every opportunity to ask the investigator or our attorneys that whole time. Even in executive session we did, mind you. And he had every opportunity to attend those and chose not to. Go ahead, Council President Morgan.
I see your yellow card.
Thank you.
I want to do a go back on my report, and one of the things that I failed to mention, I got so excited about trails and whatever, was that I got quite a few calls from people, and people talking about our professionalism, lack of professionalism on our council. And sometimes the demeanor and the behavior of our council. That is why this was read today by the mayor and distributed by the mayor, and we were asked to read parts of it. At the same time, I was home and I just wanted to go over our city council team agreement. And that was between us, and I passed that out to Jessica, Pat, Mr. Topaz, and the mayor.
I know it.
Okay, and so I want to read that, and I was going to read it out, and I think I think that council, we need help when things like this start to happen. And so, yeah, we need a lot of help. And so I want to read this, and this is our city council team agreement.
It was adopted April of last year.
That's right, adopted April 15th, 2020, Resolution 1881.
Yep.
Attendance at council meetings is first priority. Please contact city recorder if you're unable to attend. Okay, we're pretty good at that. Be on time to meetings and read the packet prior to the meeting. Be prepared to work. Mayor will take the lead in keeping the meeting and discussion focused. Distribute information in advance of the council discussion. Mayor will recognize councilors when indicating that they wish to speak. Put a time limit on audience testimony and ask them not to repeat previous speakers. Now, we had a little difference of that in our council session today or this evening, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the exchange of individuals coming to the table, expressing an opinion, and us explaining what we know and what we didn't know, and thanking people, and reacting to a plaque, and doing those kinds of things impromptu. So in some senses, it makes sense to hold some people to a limitation, especially if they're angry and and out of control. It helps. But anyway, this is that's part of it. Put a time limit on audience's testimony, and ask them to repeat, not to repeat previous speakers. Use formal procedure, point of order, call for questions, etc., to focus the meeting. Formal procedure may be used when necessary for effective discussion. Individuals should use procedure appropriately and courteously. Council meetings are televised live and require council to act professional by one treating the public and each other with courtesy, speaking in turn and on the issue, not interrupting, no engaging in side conversations, no use of personal electronic devices while conducting business at task. Refrain from personal attacks, including to presenters, staff, and council. Agree to be diplomatic about disagreement, leave disagreement at the dais, and do not try to polarize other councilors. And then the final one, call the city administrator or designee with questions and requests prior to the meeting. Individual council members' conduct agreements. Council members agree to be straightforward about their goals and issues, cultivate exchange of views with other councilors, avoid doing or saying anything that would harm or discredit the city, commitments to the council. Council strives to continue to improve citizen involvement, awareness and participation, improve follow-up and resolution of citizens' concerns or complaints, act as an advocate for the city. I wanted to read that out of concerns from our citizens who said, what are you doing? What do you have? What kind of issues, what kind of things do you have for guidelines? Well, we read the mantra, we read this, and that's what we have. But sometimes what we have, sometimes the results are a little different.
What I can tell you is I'm going to go back to that because that started right at COVID. Okay, that was our last meeting, probably our last, maybe second to last in-person meeting. Then it will be 5 minutes. Your shares will be 5 minutes or less. A lot of mayors say 3 minutes. Some don't even offer it. He's right. Topaz was right when he was talking about freedom of speech, and I agree that people should have their voice heard. That this needs to happen here. But it will be 5 minutes. And people will start addressing, the council will start addressing me in order to speak. I will give you completely the floor, 100%. If I find that you're out of order and you're talking mistruths against the entire council, I will call point of order. I will gavel once and say order. That's it. Or I'll just yell order. I won't even use a gavel. And in hopes that not to be disrespectful, but we're running a meeting. We are getting through this. This little side chatter obviously turns into conflicts like this, and it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be tonight.
I actually think you should specify what the Ethics Commission complaints does, because that's an important part. As someone who has filed dozens of complaints with the Ethics Commission, you could literally commit murder in the city council and they would do nothing about it. The Ethics Commission does two things and two things only. They investigate if you violated executive session, and they investigate whether you have personally been enriched financially. Anything else, they will not even look at and will dismiss it. As someone who has filed it, they will not even investigate a fact that if you were going to enrich yourself, you actually have to have gotten the check in your bank account. And if you have not, they dismiss it. As someone who has filed dozens of complaints.
Okay, Brady, I'm turning over a new leaf, so I'm gonna have to ask the audience not to participate in our discussion.
I just thought it would be useful. I just thought it would be useful to
right now.
Give me the
Order, yes, point of order. Okay, so Thank you, Doug, for reading that. Councilor Chilton, would you like to report?
Sure. I'm just gonna talk about a little bit of the things that I've been up to. We had a Citizens Day planning meeting and that went really well. Got a lot of good things in the works. We had Casey Garrett come and that was pretty awesome. I was surprised to see him. We had some brand new citizens that just moved here, so that was just really some good involvement. And I'm really excited about the car show and all the plans that we have in the works for that. I also attended the Riverwalk meeting that John mentioned earlier, where we talked about some of the plans, and really excited to really discuss that as a council also once we look at those plans a little bit further. But there's some really beautiful stuff in the works, and the waterfront is gonna look completely different, so I'm very excited about that. I went to the Parks meeting, and Doug touched on a little bit of what was discussed there, and I was just kind of listening in, and I have to say that committee is a really well-functioning committee. They really listen to each other, and there's lots of ideas, and they're just really well-functioning. So it's very interesting to learn and see how that works. And I've enjoyed it so far. For the 4th of July, me and my family went camping on Sand Island, and that was a great experience. Staff there is really great. We had a really good time. The fireworks show was amazing. Loved it. We kept standing there thinking, oh, that was it. And then there was another one. And it was a really great show. Very impressed with that. Last week, we went to the Columbia County Fair and Rodeo and had a really great time. It was nice to be out and about and seeing people again. My daughter actually competed in the rodeo and won her competition for steer riding.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So she lasted the whole 8 seconds, and me and my husband were both shocked. But it was amazing, and it was a really good time, and it was full. It was full the whole time. Lots of people and lots of enjoyment. And then coming up, I have some involvement with the police awards ceremony that we mentioned earlier, and that planning starts next week, and that's new for me, so I'm interested to see what my part will look like in that and what it's all about. That's all I got.
Councilor Berkeley.
So the planning commission didn't meet in June, and did meet just last week. Perhaps the major topic was looking at the plans for the high school renovation. And so lots of things moving ahead. That's exciting to see. It's been 40 years since, I guess, the last big construction there with Olmscheid Auditorium and other things. So some really important stuff happening with that. I did, as I reported at the last council meeting about my conversation with Councilor or Planning Commission Chair Dan Carey, followed up with talking about the council's decision to the Planning Commission. I think one thing I did learn through this process, and I suppose that is one of the responsibilities I need to assume as liaison, is that once if in the future again, the city is asked to consider an appeal of the Planning Commission, to make sure that whatever we decide, whether to uphold, or in this case, as we overturned it, to make sure that I communicate that immediately to the Planning Commission members. As it was, there I understood not a real process in place to follow up on that. So that is something I will make sure I do as liaison to, if that, even if we are talking about maybe not these types of appeals, but for instance, I think a couple of months ago we were talking about the code and the tandem parking, and how I think in that instance too, that was a divided vote, 3-2, but we did have a change in what the Planning Commission recommended. So I'm going to make sure that I am doing between that, there are topics that apply to planning commission to make sure that planning commissioners are on board, or not on board, but informed of that. One thing that did come out though at the planning commission that did trouble me, and there had been a previous planning commission meeting that did trouble me, and I think this would be something that all of us as elected officials who are trying to do our best to represent our community, and as our planning commission members, basically as volunteers who are giving their time to make decisions that they believe are in the best interest of our community. And I do believe that, even though I did vote to overturn their decision on the partition of the Schlumberger property, at no time did I doubt or feel that the commissioners were acting in the best interests of the city, of our residents, and fulfilling their responsibilities as commissioners. And I was disturbed to hear that, and I don't know the exact details, but where one of the commissioners did say that during this process, her partner was approached by parties in the case, asking about the decision that the commissioner had made. And then at the last planning commission meeting, I received, it was mentioned, and these are in the public record, another commissioner who also spoke of a time when it was approached by a party to the case, in questioning the decision that the commissioner had made. And I feel that we, I know, for instance, you, Mayor Scholl, fairly recently were accosted by citizens wondering, what you're doing, and they didn't know where you stood on and that kind of thing. And it doesn't sound it was to me the same extent as maybe that particular instance, but it does concern me that that we need to really state clearly and affirm that any of our commissioners, Parks Commission, and especially our Planning Commission, that we stand with our commissioners, even though we might disagree with the decisions they make or overturn them. But it is so important to acknowledge and recognize the work that they do put into it by looking at these issues, and that any kind of just regret any kind of criticism or reproach that they may be getting from citizens regarding these issues. So as I thought when I cast my vote in June, my standing with the Planning Commission, let's say, commissioners, is not high. And but I am pledging to continue that work, to find a way that, as we have talked about, finding ways to support the Planning Commission, one of which would be to make sure we do arrange a meeting to talk about issues that I know that they've been wanting to talk about last year pre-COVID, that we do that. And also, I think as part of that meeting, just to make sure that we clarify the types of support, et cetera, that we can and will provide to the planning commissioners, for instance, making use of our legal counsel on certain issues. So, again, they're doing, I believe, great work, lots of things on their plate, and I commend them for the work that they do. I'd like to commend the library staff and our rec department staff for their response to the heat emergency. Director Margaret Jeffries communicated with library staff who adjusted their work schedule to allow the library to be open on days and hours it wouldn't normally be opened for. I don't know that they had a lot of customers, but just the fact that the library staff showed that initiative and willingness to reach out to the community is certainly something to be commended, as was opening up the recreation center, which was staffed by a number of volunteers in our community CCMH, community action team, the Columbia Health Authority. It was really great to see the community stepping up. I hope that in future council meetings that this is something that we look at and address. I'm sure this heat emergency was not a one-off smoke. Well, I hope not, but I don't think so. The smoke, we keep my fingers crossed about the smoke. I spent that week in Wisconsin while my wife and daughter were inundated with the smoke. But just that we as a city kind of address that, what kind of mechanism or system do we have in place, so should that happen again, what can we do to respond. Public Works did a great job responding to a number of water main ruptures and repairing those in the 100+ degree heat. So it's just, we have some excellent city employees working on these things. I had I would call the Poop and Pee tour with John and Muhammad of the city water treatment facility, and which is eye-opening when you see I don't know if folks know that as the water comes in, there's this rotating screen that catches things and then puts it into forms it into some kind of oozing mass that almost looks like Play-Doh coming out of the old Play-Doh. Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Anyway, my wife told me the same thing. Anyway, if you want to know how hard our city workers were, and on top of it, funders and the staff, it's great. And also our fantastic water filtration plant up there in Columbia City, the state-of-the-art facility that we have. And just the great work that's being done. So I would encourage anyone to go ahead and do the tour. I guess because I'm a teacher, when you talk about poop and pee, it's exciting to kids, and when I talk about those things in class, they all. Anyway, so I'm a kid at heart. Anyway, it's very interesting, Jessica. Councilor Chilton, you should go. I have pictures and video. Anyway, but no, it was really eye-opening just to see the professionalism, the level of work that is done to keep our community safe with drinking water and our sanitary system. I've spent a lot of time lurking, and maybe some people think stalking. I've been at the playground. People, I think, might wonder, who is this old gray-haired man hanging around the playground? Or at the riverfront, talking with families. I've just been doing a lot of chit-chatting with people, just try to informally find out, and I've been very careful to try to identify myself real quickly as a city councilor, that the reason I'm asking these questions about why they're in town, what they're doing, and what the children is as a city councilor, just to get their perspective. And overwhelmingly, just very positive, and a lot of excitement about the direction the city is going. So I had the opportunity on the 4th of July to go down to the docks and talk with a lot of the boaters who were down there. And I've been going to a few of the 13 nights. My wife and I aren't normally the kind to be in crowds like that, but I've gone down to 13 nights a couple of times and just chat with people, what brings them, and some really positive comments. The 13 nights seems to, this year especially, going well, be going very well. And the 4th of July activities seem to go off very, very well. I mean, and kudos to Tina for putting the 4th together when there was uncertainty about that and work on the 13 nights. Yeah, the new playground is looking good, so lots of good things are happening. Oh, the last final thing, I want to affirm what you said, Mayor, about citizens not burning down the city. At the Ring the Bell festivities, while you were over on the river, I had the opportunity to speak for a couple of minutes. We had a surprise visit by the Oregon Secretary of State who spoke. Her first time, and her and her partner's first time coming to the community, and I don't think it will be their last. And our representative Brad Witt was there as well, and they did a great job of thanking folks, and I did my thanks, but I think I too responded to the question about banning fireworks sales or the firing off the fireworks, because I had conversations with people and some emails about that. And as I tried to explain to people, I think, yes, we could have, I think we had authority to maybe ban the sale, but it was better not to, and I think one reason for that was among the people selling fireworks were our St. Helens High School band, which would have impacted them. And as far as saying if we wanted to ban fireworks, as the police were testifying earlier, we cannot be putting our law enforcement into a situation that they're unable to enforce things. So sure, we could have said, because of the fire danger, we're not going to allow fireworks. I have a hunch that this being St. Helens and this being Columbia County, folks are gonna set those fireworks off, and it would be no good to put our police or our fire department in a position of trying to enforce an unenforceable law. And if you do that sort of thing, it just kind of builds contempt, right, for law if you're going to do that kind of thing. So I made a pitch out there too, is that I think that even though we did not have a conversation about that as a council, we never talked about it, my sense was that as a council, we trusted the citizens of St. Helens to do the right thing. And I think they did for the most part, pre 4th of July. I didn't hear as many fireworks, at least in my neighborhood or other maybe in some neighborhoods it was. But the day of the 4th of July was pretty quiet. So I think, yeah, kudos to the citizens of St. Helens for stepping up to exercise safety and responsibility and not having to be told what to do. So, and that's my report.
All right. Okay.
Other business.
You have something?
Matt does.
Throw me under the bus. Look at that.
I do.
Wow.
All right,
I did.
what you got?
We messaged Municode to let them know about the website. And we got a response saying our engineering team has been working on a database related issue that is intermittently impacting web page uptime. So they're hoping to have it resolved soon, but that's why the
we're
website
still
is
down.
The meeting is still being recorded. It
Yep.
will still be uploaded to YouTube tomorrow by Lisa when she gets into the office, so anybody can go on YouTube and watch the meeting tomorrow.
So moving forward, we will be opening with our city mantra and on our work session and our agreement too, just to kind of revisit that next meeting. So with that, we are adjourned.
One of the nice things about Zoom is like
I know.